What it do, Sober Soldier, salute. This is Stick from Dead Prayers with my partner, M1. And you are in tune to gotkushTV.
There was empires in Africa called Kush, Timbuktu, where every race came to get booked. My success to you, even if you wish me the opposite. Sooner or later, we'll all see who the prophet is.
Achomi na jeli bojo kwe ni biane nyenko gotkushTV nyeyiradon. My name is Na Jeli Bojo Kwe, and right now you're watching gotkushTV. Thank you.
Every year in the month of May, we chant liberation. We gather every year in the month of May, cause we are one black nation. And we celebrate all our victory and prepare for each new fight. We vanquish you all down better, whether black, yellow, brown or white. Cause black struggle international in this year time, and we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in North America, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in the Caribbean, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in Canada, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in South America, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in Europe, me say we want liberation. No, after we struggle, I go in a Britain, man, me say we want liberation. No, after we struggle, I go in a Asia, me say we want liberation. No, after we struggle, I go in a Australia, me say we want liberation. No, and so we trot down the road and it a cause sensation behind the colors of the new black nation. I step into the valleys in the shadow of the wicked, just a chant liberation. Tell it to the nation what we want to see is Africa strong and free. We sing it in a reggae song all the time. Say what is to be has got to be. Africa shall be free. Who are we? Africans. What do we want? Freedom. And we say, how do we get it? Fight. We must fight to defend the truth and defend the right. It's Africa Liberation Day. The true black spirit is here to stay. Before this power, no one life is here. Freedom come, what me? Freedom come, what me? And the white them who were standing by were watching fearful, wondering, saying, who are these people who walk so proud? Who are these people who chant so loud? Are these not they who live in darkness and to whom we have given light? Are these not the sons and daughters of the savage who we have taught to read and write? Have we not taught them our history and honor them with our culture? And brought them into our great house to serve and stand at our great table? Have we not granted them what they deserve? Well, African proverbs say that only those who can listen can learn, and who can hear go and feel. We are the sheep of your pasture, and now we shall inherit our land. And we are also the lion, against who none shall stand. We are the sons and daughters of the original nation that gave to this world first knowledge of civilization. We were the victim of the white savage to who we stretch out our hand, and not knowing they came to plunder, kill and slave our people and destroy our land. So now we step it down the road and it a cause sensation behind the colors of the new black nation and a one chance liberation. And we say, who are we? Africans. What do we want? Freedom. And we say, how do we get it? Fight. We must fight. We defend the truth and defend the right. This is Africa Liberation Day. A true black spirit is here to stay. We bow this power, no one life this day. Freedom come, what me? A freedom come, what me? A freedom come, what me? What me?
Ghana, democracy under fire. Delving deep into the political theatre of Ghana in the lead up to the general election in December 2024. We welcome activist, organizer and writer Bonchi Anyete as our regular co-host and analyst, breaking down the dynamics in his unique and entertaining way. Tune in to our very first show, Decoding Ghana's Political Theatre, Tuesday, the 27th of February, 2024, from 8 p.m. GMT, live on gotkushTV. And we look forward to you joining us every fourth Tuesday of the month throughout 2024. Ghana, democracy under fire. This is a show not to be missed. Fire burn them dirty king, blaze up them dirty king, fire burn them king, send him disastrous, and time he fast with us, ancestors walk with us, fire burn them king. Tendai Mwari, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe, Kudzai, Mudzimu Mukuru, giving praises unto our great ancestors, Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people around the world. Greetings and welcome, brothers and sisters, to another edition of our weekly live show, interactive live show, open house, Zivanayi, where we discuss many, many different topics, brothers and sisters, and open the floor, the platform to you to come true and share your thoughts, your feelings, your energies, vibrations with us and our community, our family tuned in, locked on and locked in. We welcome you on this Ojima Day, the 2nd of April, Ojima Day, Tuesday, the 2nd of April, in the year they call 2024 as designated by the Gregorian calendar. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, which is extremely important based upon the season that we are currently in. That's going to become, important to our conversation, or at least the conversation that I raise today. You will be free to raise your own discussion points once we open up the lines. I'm going to share the link now for you to join the conversation, and it will be pinned to the chat. It will be pinned to the top of the chat, brothers and sisters, for you to join the conversation if you so wish. And you can feel free to do so at any point. I will bring you through once I've gotten through, my major talking point for the evening's proceedings, and then we're going to hear from everybody else, brothers and sisters. So you can feel free to raise and expand upon the topic that I have raised, or feel free to raise your own. It's all well and good. It's all well and good. It's all well and good. We encourage and ask you to like up the video as you come through, brothers and sisters. Like up the video and share the link far, far, far and wide, wide, wide. Yes, indeed. Let the people know. So ShakaRa is live on the beautiful media platform that is called gotkushTV right about now. And we are going to be discussing science, religion, and culture. Science, religion, and culture. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters. Prepare yourself, brace yourself for that the conversation right there, so because we're going to go in and have some interesting dialogue around some interesting dynamics that are taking place in the global African community. I want to send a special shout out to my brother Bonchi and Yete, who joined me for our second episode of Ghana Democracy Under Fire last week. For those who were here, I'm sure you could appreciate that it was a very good episode. We went through some case studies, some various different case studies of what is taking place on the ground in Ghana as it relates to the political environment, the media environment, the social environment, the economic environment, and we stratified them. I'm not even going to give you the details, brothers and sisters, but check out the episode. It was a good little exercise that we went through. And so we hope that ones and ones learned something from the conversation and gain some insight into Ghana politics. And that is our aim with that particular podcast. So tune in at the end of the month. It's every fourth Tuesday of the month. So tune in at the end of the month for our third episode. And we promise you it will be just as, if not more, insightful. We also encourage you to, if you are so moved, to support gotkushTV by hitting up the Patreon. That is linked in the description to the video, brothers and sisters. We encourage you to hit up the Patreon if you are so moved. There is no obligation, but all offerings are gratefully received, brothers and sisters, as we continue to grow and develop as a platform. All right, so give thanks in advance for all contributions. They are received with humility and the promise that all contributions will go to the service of our people worldwide in terms of providing viable Pan-African media, contributing to this effort of providing viable Pan-African media for the global African community. Enough things are going on in the world right about now, kings and queens. Make we talk. Hashtag make we talk. Plenty things are going on in the world, kings and queens. Yeah, man. Me hear say Putin win a new election by a landslide and all them things there. Vex off the whole of the Western world. As we've been discussing Haiti, and we're going to continue to discuss Haiti, brothers and sisters. We've got some information to share regarding that shortly, so do stay tuned. But we discussed Haiti a couple of weeks ago with our sister Jemima Pierre. If you have not seen that show, I encourage you to go and watch that show. And do stay tuned, because we will be coming back to the issue of Haiti next week. Yes. In fact, next month as well. Yeah. So we're going to be returning to Haiti, the issue of Haiti, which really has consumed my attention, both mentally and spiritually, brothers and sisters, for the last few weeks. And just walking with the energy of our people in Haiti and trying to stay in tune and figure out how to best support and them kind of things. So we're going to be getting into those conversations as and where the case may be, and also witnessing the abdication of responsibility as it relates to black media, particularly black media, independent black media in the United States of America, who are really sanctioning US intervention into Haiti and creating an environment in which to seduce our brothers and sisters in Haiti into trusting, yes, American military boots on the ground, based upon a dichotomy that suggests that somehow the American military troops have more moral standing than the so-called gangs. Yes, which our sister Jemima Pierre corrected the terminology the other day in terms of referring to them as militias. Yes, and we agree, whether they are positive, negative, or in between, we agree that they should be referred to as militias, even if we disagree with their political objectives, many of which are not clear as it stands at the moment, brothers and sisters. But what should be clear to all of us is that America is the devil. And so none of us should be promoting and advocating an American intervention into Haiti in any way, shape, or form, except maybe independently with the hands of our brothers and sisters in the United States of America, our African brothers and sisters in the United States of America, independently of the American government, brothers and sisters, in concert and collaboration and unity with our brothers and sisters in Haiti. And so that's another subject for another time, but I thought, let me just bonfire upon all people that are trying to suggest this nonsense and this dangerous, devilish agenda at the moment in today's world, brothers and sisters. There's also, news today of the fact that Israel is murking aid workers, yes, in its conflict with Gaza at the moment. And today the news came out that 3 British aid workers have been casualties of Israeli bombing in the region. And that has caused all kinds of diplomatic problems for Israel as it relates to the United Kingdom of Great Britain, simply because it would not exist without the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and it needs to maintain the loyalty of the United Kingdom of Great Britain if it is to be protected in today's world, diplomatically and militarily, because, nations like the United Kingdom of Great Britain and the United States of America tend to play their cards close to the chest in terms of their loyalty to each other. So that's another interesting thing that are going on in the world. And, we're going to keep paying attention to what is going on there, brothers and sisters. And so there are many things happening in the world. Yeah? And no apology for the fact that we have been heavily focused on a lot of global geopolitics in recent weeks, and I thought today that we're going to go into a bit of a different conversation, just to vary our topic somewhat, because I'm a man of various different interests, so obviously whatever we're discussing, we're going to discuss the political, social, and economic implications, yes, of it in relation to African people, but it won't necessarily always be hardline focus on geopolitical events. Yeah. Having said that, we also need to acknowledge the fact that there's been a historical election victory in Senegal, in the West African nation of Senegal. President Faye has come to power with a significant amount of the masses supporting him, it would seem. And so do stay tuned, brothers and sisters, because this week, Thursday, the 4th of April, this week, near day Thursday, the 4th of April, we will be addressing the situation in Senegal. So stay tuned for more information on that. And we will be going live to Senegal. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters. We're going to be live to Senegal on Tuesday, Jimmy Day, the 9th of April. Senegal, we are go to speak to brothers and sisters on the ground about that particular election victory and what it means for Senegal and what it means for the region of West Africa and what it means for the African world at large. So you don't want to miss that show. We are going to be live in Senegal on Tuesday, the 9th of April. All right. So mark your calendar from now. In fact, the link for that is already up, brothers and sisters. Yeah. The link for that is already up, so you can go check that out right about now. And, mark your calendar, set your reminder, and all of these things, yeah? The video is called Live from Senegal, and in the thumbnail, you will see Senegal, Pan-Africanism's new hope. We're asking the question, is Senegal a new hope for Pan-Africanists around the world? All right, let's get into this, brothers and sisters. Let me see. Hail up the chat, bigging up the Dorian in the building. I want to big up Reparation Nation. Empress Kush today. Set Imhotep there. Miss Amelia there, giving thanks to all those who there and have chosen not to make their presence known. We appreciate you and appreciate love you anyway. Whether you love we or you hate we, give thanks, yeah, for contributing to the view count. We don't know. All right, brothers and sisters, we're gonna get into my particular main topic today, and just getting us some conversation about religion, science and culture. Should I say science, religion and culture? Now we're gonna review a video, yeah, that took my interest a couple of days ago, and since then it surprised me because it's been quite a talking point, yeah, among many different platforms in mainstream British media over the last couple of days, and it features a well-known gentleman by the name of Richard Dawkins. Yes. Now, for those who are not aware, Richard Dawkins is an evolutionary biologist, probably the most well-known evolutionary biologist in the world. He's got quite a significant public profile. He is considered an authority on biological matters, particularly as it relates to evolution, the Human Genome Project, and all them kind of things there. Whenever there's a new advance in evolutionary biology, oftentimes he is the face at the front, yes, or fronting the conversation around it, okay? He is also, however, well known for being extremely anti-religion. Yes, extremely anti-religion. He is an ardent atheist. Yeah, he is one of the four horsemen, so to speak. Yes. Of atheism. This is not my terminology now. There's in popular discourse, there is a term for the four horsemen who have basically been punching holes in the coffin of the God concept for the better part of a few decades, brothers and sisters. And he is one. The now deceased Christopher Hitchens is another. Daniel Dennett, yeah, who is a philosopher who has very interesting things to say about the new frontier of consciousness, yes, is another, and I'm forgetting the fourth one. There's four of them, but Hitchens, Dawkins, and Dennett are three of the four, okay? And so because of this reputation for anti-religious discourse, Richard Dawkins has developed quite a name for himself. In fact, I would argue that his pronouncements on religion are probably more. So brothers and sisters in the chat are helping me out. Yes, indeed. The fourth horseman is a guy by the name of Sam Harris. Yeah, so thank you for that, Sam Harris. All right, and so yeah, he's probably more well known. By the way, Sam Harris is also a philosopher and a neuroscientist. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. All right, and that connection between philosophy and neuroscience is a very interesting one. There's you can watch some very good debates around that if you're interested in that kind of thing. All right, but yeah. So where was that guy with this? Yeah, so he's very well known for his condemnation of religion. Him now, the time for it is intolerant. He's not even one of them guys where it's like, well, me not believe in him, but if you believe, then have your belief and rate it. Him fire for them thing there. Him not deal with them argument there. All right. His two most famous books, yeah, Richard Dawkins' two most famous books. I would imagine, I think I'm correct in saying this, yeah, that his two most famous books are The Selfish Gene. Yes, The Selfish Gene, which is a book which is about evolution, yeah, and interestingly was released in the year 1976. All right, now I'm putting that out there because given how popular that book is still today, you might be forgiven for not realizing how old it actually is as a publication. Yeah, I know I was certainly surprised. Yeah, I've not finished reading that book, and I will at some point, but I was surprised that it was that old. All right, when I started reading it. His second most famous book, I think I would be correct in saying, is The God Delusion. Yes, The God Delusion, which is an argument that does what it says on the tin. It's an argument against God. It's an argument against the Lord. It's an argument against Yahweh. It's an argument against the existence of Allah. It's an argument against the existence of deities in particular, and has caused a lot of contention in the religious world. If you are familiar with Speaker's Corner, then you will know that our Christian and Muslim brothers, sisters, and others were well known to debate with atheists around these topics, and a lot of them were getting their talking points or responding to the talking points of Richard Dawkins. And The God Delusion came out in the year 2006. Okay, 2006. So it's a far more recent book than The Selfish Gene. All right, but The Selfish Gene is probably still the most popular book discussing through which people can learn about human biology and its relationship to evolution in today's world. Okay, now why I'm very interested in Richard Dawkins, other than what you can learn from him as a scientist, is because of the fact that he is the patron saint of neo-Darwinian thought. Yeah, he is the person who has championed the school of neo-Darwinian thought, which seeks to harmonize the schools of thought and the findings of Charles Darwin, yeah, man who lived well over 100 years ago, and synthesize them with new findings in biology, new findings in human evolution, and so on and so forth. Okay, neo-Darwinian thought. And because of his stance against his promotion of science as averse to the religious sphere, many of those who have taken on his Darwinian schools of thought have taken on the anti-religious schools of thought simultaneously with the Darwinian school, with the Darwinian framework. Yes. By the way, there are many schools of thought within biology, and so not everybody in biology is a neo-Darwinian. Yes, and some in fact believe that the neo-Darwinians have actually distorted much of what Darwin produced and said and brought to the world. All right, but that's another subject for another time, and I was putting that out there for the sake of brevity. Okay, all right. So then what happens is now this is all taking place within Western society. It's not a beef that I have a particular what's the word? I not have a horse in a race there. Yeah, really and truly. But it's interesting, if you have a curious mind to take in the debate same time. Yeah. But then what's happened is that he, as a member of the Society of Skeptics, or the Skeptic Society, which is a society that is basically about promoting atheism in the Western world, has become quite an inspiration for many within the Pan-African communities to a lesser degree, but the Black conscious community more broadly defined. And many, directly or indirectly, are bringing in Richard Dawkins into conversations and are trying to apply the Dawkins methodology and framework and method of thinking into African-centered discourse and assess African spirituality and culture using a neo-Darwinian lens inspired by the pronouncements of Richard Dawkins. I'm saying that openly. Some of the people that are engaged in this may not say that directly, but I am saying that. That is my interpretation of what I do, only because I've listened to and read enough Dawkins to know where some of these talking points come from. And so Dawkins came on, after that long introduction to who the hell Dawkins is. Yeah, Dawkins came on LBC recently, and a very interesting exchange ensued. Yes, and so I'm going to get right into the conversation. I'm going to explain what inspired this conversation by looking at how the responses to Richard Dawkins himself. When I start playing the video, let me know if Uno can hear the video. All right. When I start playing the video, let me know if Uno can hear the video. Okay.
Professor Dawkins, it's very good to have you join us to discuss whether it matters that Christianity is playing a diminishing role in national life.
So bear in mind now, brothers and sisters, that there's been a lot of conversation in Britain, the United Kingdom of Great Britain, in recent years concerning the fact that less and less people are going to church around here, and that less and less people are self-identifying as Christians, yes? And you would think that one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, as far as banging the nails into the coffin of the Christian God, would see this as a cause for unbridled and unmitigated celebration. Yeah, that's what you might assume if you've been following Richard Dawkins' career for in any significant way for any significant period of time. All right. So this is the context for the conversation, and this conversation is taking place because recently, Easter is the period that Western society has been in the last couple weeks. Okay. And so we're going to go forward.
Welcome to LBC.
Thank you.
And what would be your Easter message? I mean, I've said a few things. What would you tell the nation?
So listen now, yeah. Rachel Johnson, the LBC host, has asked him for an Easter message. Now, why would you bring on a very well-known virulent atheist to bring on an Easter message? It's very interesting, dynamics here. So listen now to where Dawkins said.
Well, I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I do think that...
Hold on. Pull up. The woman asked you for your Easter message. Richard. The woman asked you for your Easter message. We are talking about Ramadan fast. So hold on now. So as brothers and sisters may or may not be aware, yes, Ramadan recently concluded, I believe, and he done gone already. Correct me if I'm wrong, brothers and sisters, yeah? So the woman asked Richard for your Easter message, and in begin the thing by saying, hold on there, me vex for ears them I promote Ramadan instead. All right, so what's the context for this, brothers and sisters? And I'm explaining this now mostly for our international audience. In fact, then again, I'd imagine someone owner will live a UK probably are not aware of this either. Yeah, there's been some uproar in the last week or so because London Mayor Sadiq Khan, who is a Muslim, first Muslim in the mayorship of London. And so this is evidence of the fact that Britain is a multicultural society. Okay. But Mayor Sadiq Khan put up lights in observance and celebration of Ramadan and Eid. Now, if you don't know anything about the Muslim calendar, you know that it's a lunar calendar. And so therefore, the times of their celebrations as it relates to the Gregorian calendar tend to shift throughout the year, right? Different calendar. And so it just so happens this year that Ramadan and Eid coincide with Easter. All right. And so Mayor Sadiq Khan said, well, all right, through the significance of Eid and Ramadan in the Muslim calendar, and London has a significant Muslim population, can we put up some lights? Yeah, and I believe it was in the Oxford Circus or Regent Street or something there, so to celebrate Ramadan. Yeah, for the Muslims, then we celebrate Ramadan. And the good British people, them native Britons, yes, vex. Yeah, them vex, all right, because they're saying that them not put up Easter light, but them put up Ramadan light. Now, brothers and sisters, me then in my late 30s right here now, you know. And me live in England from me born and grow up. And I have never, in the history of my sojourn in this colonizer land, seeing Easter lights. Lights are paraphernalia that is reserved, and lights in public spaces are reserved, generally speaking, for them Christmas celebration. Me never see Easter light yet. Yeah, what me see is Easter egg all about the place. Yeah, and I've partaken in an Easter egg or two in my time. Usually you will see decorations in shops, referring to Easter and Easter bunny and all them thing there. Very little Jesus, yeah, but the Easter bunny and the Easter egg them all about the place, and the chocolate bunny them and all them thing there. And then as far as the faith is concerned, usually around Easter time, the Easter weekend, the television, yeah, is dominated by Christian vibration, right? So you might get 10 Commandments, Ben-Hur, yeah, and all them thing there. The greatest story ever told and movements like that, all on the television. I never see lights yet for Easter, all right? So the British people are complaining about lights. So this is the context in which Richard Dawkins now is speaking, yeah? So when them ask him, well, give your Easter message, Dawkins, the first thing him say is, well, me disappointed to hear about this Islam vibration that go on in the city. It's what I go on. Yeah? What do I deal with? You know what I mean? This is the atheist now, right? Richard Dawkins is the atheist. Yes? Okay, let's continue some more.
Well, I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I do think that we are culturally a Christian country. I call myself a cultural Christian. I'm not a believer. But there's a distinction between being a believing Christian and being a cultural Christian. And so, I love hymns and Christmas carols and...
Hold on, Richard. Richard, where say a while ago, Richard? Richard said, I'm not a believer, but I am a cultural Christian. And we are a culturally Christian country.
Well, I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I do think that we are culturally a Christian country.
We, the United Kingdom of Great Britain, is a culturally Christian country, not a melting pot, not a multicultural society. Yes, not a diverse metropole. But we, the United Kingdom of Great Britain, are a Christian country. I want to hear what Richard is saying. Richard Dawkins, one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse as far as Christianity is concerned. So what Richard is emphasizing here is that my lack of belief, yes, my lack of belief in the faith doesn't lead me to reject and neglect the importance of this thing when in Christianity to my culture as a British white man. Richard Dawkins is telling us, me is a very proud British Bakra. And as a proud British Bakra, Christianity is essential to my British Bakra culture. So I affirm our British Bakraness within the realms of cultural Christianity. That's my interpretation, translation of what Richard Dawkins has just said to us a while ago. It's a very interesting pronouncement from evolutionary biologist, virulent atheist, Richard Dawkins. Make we hear Richard I say.
I call myself a cultural Christian. I'm not a believer. But there's a distinction between being a believing Christian and being a cultural Christian. And so, I love hymns and Christmas carols, and when
him say him love the hymns and the Christmas carol them. Yeah. The Christmas carol we talk about jingle bells and away in a manger. No sleep, no what? Frog, forget the lyrics. Reginald's history. Yeah, no, something for your bed or something stay. So I can't remember the lyrics. Long time since me sing them song there in a primary school. Yeah, you know what I mean? Him love them tune there. Him not believe him when I talk about it, but him love them tune there because them is theme culture. That him I say a while ago. All right,
sort of feel at home in the Christian ethos. I feel that we are a Christian country in that sense.
Him say him feel at home in the Christian ethos. Yes? So that means now for him to be a British background, you have to have the Christian ethos in it. That he must say, you know. Him feel at home in the vibration. This is the one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, you know, one of the neo-Darwinians who has become famous for fire burning religion all about the place. This is the guy who is inspiring many in the so-called black conscious community, particularly online, to use theme arguments as an attack on African spirituality and culture, using the promulgation of science as a smokescreen to attack and negate African spirituality and culture. But the example that these people are using is affirming theme culture as a British background. Science for him and scientific exploration does not lead him to negate his cultural British backgroundness. So it's a very interesting dynamic of going on. So come, Richard.
It's true that statistically the number of people who actually believe in Christianity is going down, and I'm happy with that. But I would not be happy if, for example, we lost all our cathedrals and our beautiful parish churches. So I count myself a cultural Christian. I think it would matter.
Him no want the British background people them to lose them cathedral and the religious architecture and paraphernalia where them develop over the centuries. Him no want them lose that thing there. Him no want them lose them artistic brilliance that is inspired by film religious inclination. Him no want them lose them something there. Yeah, that him say a while ago.
If we substituted any alternative religion, that would be truly dreadful.
Well, which brings me to my supplementary point, which is that
certainly if we substitute it for any other kind of religion, that would be truly dreadful. Why? Because no other religion, as far as he's concerned, represents British backgroundness. He wants to preserve the British backgroundness. And even though he promotes atheism, he doesn't want to see British religious inclinations superseded by any other inclinations. Apply this to ourselves as African people. We're going to come back to this here more explicitly, but apply what he's saying, yes, to ourselves as African people. Whether we are practicing within a spiritual system or not, an African spiritual system, that is, apply what he's saying to us as African people and how we regard Fiwi culture in that kind of way. But does this remain, confined to, what people might call superficial things, like architecture, sing song, you know what I mean, and all them things? That might be, considered to be superficial. Is that the confines of Richard's argument?
As we know, church attendance is plummeting, but the erection of mosques across Europe, I think 6,000 are under construction, and there are many more, are being planned. So do you regard that as a problem? Do you think that matters?
Yes, I do, really. I mean, I might choose my words carefully. I mean, if I had to choose between Christianity and Islam, I choose Christianity every single time.
Now, this is the atheist, you know. He's supposed to be promoting no religion. Yeah, Jehovah not superior to Allah, not superior to Yahweh. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And all them thing there. That's what he's supposed to be promoting. But he would be disappointed, yes, if people leave the Christianity for the Islam. Why? What is Richard Dawkins' motivation for this line of argument? Make we hear.
I mean, it seems to me to be a fundamentally decent religion in a way that I think Islam is not.
He believes Christianity is a fundamentally decent religion in a way that Islam is not. It's a very interesting assertion. That's a very interesting assertion. But why is he making the argument, brothers and sisters? What is the geopolitical reality that we live in today's world? And even though Christianity is no more or less an Abrahamic religion than Islam and Judaism, for some reason, he draws the line when it comes to conversion to Islam and Islam replacing Christianity, not just in now Britain, but European society. Remember, so the question she asked him, is about the Muslim we have built all over Europe. A blows not. Look at here, Richard. I say, come, Richard.
I think you're going to have to explain why you say that, Professor Dawkins. Why is Islam profound?
Well,
Rachel trying to run interference now. Make sure Richard don't get in too much trouble, because you could be accused of being Islamophobic. And engaging in anti-Muslim hatred, as the Conservative Party prefer to refer to it in the UK. Listen to where Richard I say.
Fundamentally not decent like Christianity.
Yes, I mean the way women are treated. I mean, Christianity is not great about that. It's had its problems with female vicars and female bishops and things, but there's an active hostility to women, which is promoted, I think, by the holy books of Islam. I'm not talking about individual Muslims, who of course are quite different, but the doctrines of Islam, the Hadith and the Quran, is fundamentally hostile to women, hostile to gays. And I find that I like to live in a culturally Christian country, although I do not believe a single word of the Christian faith.
Just
him don't believe a single word of the Helios Biblos. All our New Testament. Him not believe in a nothing way in there. But he finds the Christian religion to be fundamentally decent. The examples that he gives are the positions on women and homosexuals. Now, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not as well read. Yes. Maybe I'm not as well read in them vibration, yeah, as many of you might be. But I am not aware that the Muslim versus Christian position on women and quote-unquote gays, as they refer to them, is that much different. I'm not particularly aware of a massive difference within, as he put it, what the Holy Book says in relation to these things. I'm not particularly aware of these dynamics, yeah? But those are the examples that he gives. And then he concludes with this: I just feel, it's me as Richard, British Bakra, me just feel more comfortable within a Christian society. Yeah? All right.
for balance, should we say something about fundamentalist Christians who, we can see abortion rights, reproductive rights being rolled back in Republican states in America. So Christianity is still not without its problems when it comes to women and their rights.
Well, you didn't ask me about.
By the way, just the other day, they were fighting over women. Is it vicars in the Anglican Church? Just the other day, they're fighting over this thing. When I come here and say, yeah, them want for taking more leadership role in the church, the Church of England. Just the other day, this was literally a couple years ago. Yeah, let me know if I lie, me I tell.
About Christianity in America, that's a different matter entirely.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm sure we got some fundamentalist Christians here too, but not as public.
Well, insofar as fundamentalist Christians oppose evolution and think that the world was created 6,000 years ago, I mean, that is pernicious nonsense, of course.
Now, bear in mind, brothers and sisters, that there are some, not all religious traditions are concerned with the age of the earth. Not all religious traditions put a 6,000-year limit upon the earth, the age of the earth. Yeah? In fact, outside of the Abrahamic religions, I would put it out there that the overwhelming majority of spiritual systems among all of the peoples on the planet Earth have no issue with what geology has taught us in terms of how old the earth is. But Dawkins has said that not just Islam, remember him saying a while ago, any other kind of religion, he wouldn't want to see Christianity replaced with any other kind of religion, not even a religion that would lend itself more to scientific and geological explanations of the age of the earth. I'm going to play more, brothers and sisters. I want to get through this whole thing very quickly and open up the lines.
Right. Well, so I think I see where you come from. I like the phrase, you're a cultural Christian. I think I'm a bit more than a cultural Christian, although, it does, my belief waxes and wanes. Would it be a good thing or a bad thing if we became a less Christian country? And just on the foundation of this nation, with the king being the head of church and state, do you think it provides a solid foundation that we would lose something if, let's say, there was a Muslim majority?
Well, yes. I think the king, when he was Prince of Wales, was actually rather sympathetic towards Islam, and one of the problems I felt. No, I think it would be a terrible thing. And insofar as Christianity can be seen as a bulwark against Islam, I think it's it's a very good thing. I mean, in Africa, for example, where you have missionaries of both faiths operating, I'm on Team Christian side as far as that's concerned. I think it would be a terrible thing. And insofar as Christianity can be seen as a bulwark against Islam, I think it's a very good thing. I mean, in Africa, for example, where you have missionaries of both faiths operating, I'm on Team Christian side as far as that's concerned.
Hold on, pull up, Richard, pull up. Where you say a while ago, Richard? Because now, up until this point, brethren and sisters, Richard was talking about the United Kingdom of Great Britain. But no, Richard got in a fewy business. Or Richard find himself in a fewy business in Africa. Richard gone square in a fewy business to reggae. Come again, Richard. Where you say a while ago?
It would be a terrible thing. And insofar as Christianity can be seen as a bulwark against Islam, I think it's a very good thing. I mean, in Africa, for example, where you have missionaries of both faiths operating, I'm on Team Christian side as far as that's concerned.
So Richard, I tell we say when it comes to fewy, not just for them business, when it comes to fewy business, him have a point of view, they say him depend Team Christian versus the Muslim them in Africa. Where Richard I go? Who call Richard for comment on fewy business? Who send go call Richard for an opinion about Africa and fewy people? Where Richard I go? But this, brothers and sisters, is what you call Richard promoting Bakra interests in global geopolitics. This is Richard demonstrating to us that science no save you from Bakra imperialism. Science don't save you from promoting the interest of the Bakra culture, Bakra nation state, Bakra politics, and Bakra economics, and even Bakra religion among African people. That Dawkins I show you right here now. Dawkins saying want hold on pan for him culture for himself. But not only that, he want promote for them culture among we as African people because it stands as a bulwark against what? Islam. Una not hear Richard I say. Una not hear Richard I say, you know, Richard the scientist, the Darwinist, the man will tell you about evolution. The man that is the archetypal thinker for many that are coming into and trying to impose him lens as a viable tool of analysis for assessing we own a culture as African people. This Bakra, want come tell we say, we for take on the Christian thing as opposed to the Muslim thing, the Islam thing in relation to ourselves. That him I say. Marcus Garvey, hey, listen. Look here.
It's interesting because I sort of thought that you would be more of a Hitchinite, God is not great.
Rachel confused, Rachel bemused, Rachel bamboozled. Yeah, Rachel been led astray. Rachel run amok. Rachel don't know what going. She now evoke the deceased horseman, Christopher Hitchens. Cause Christopher Hitchens, to be fair, I would imagine he would have sliced through the whole dynamics. Right, I know. Yeah, I'm not sure he would necessarily fully agree, yeah, with Richard. So she called up Christopher now, resurrecting from the grave as the horseman, the fellow horseman. For say, well, I would have thought, Richard, I'm rather surprised, Richard. I would have thought that you would be, you know, true to your horseman epithet and wield the sword of atheism and slice through Christian comfortability mercilessly, Richard. So what Richard I say?
Advocate, but it's interesting to me that you see the value and the force for good of the United Kingdom having a Christian foundation.
Yes, but I must emphasize that I think that the things that Christians believe are actually nonsense. I mean,
Rachel, I said, hold on there, Rachel. Hold on there. No, I don't want you take the thing too far, you know. Let me just clarify the situation right now, Rachel. When the Christian then believe it's foolishness, you know. Right? When they really believe it's foolishness, you know. But
I think that when you say you waver, I wanted to ask you, do you actually believe that Jesus had a virgin for a mother? Do you actually believe he rose from the dead? I suspect
well,
you
weirdly,
probably don't.
since you ask, Richard, if I may, because I was at New College when you were I think are you still a Don at New College? Yes.
Well, I'm retired.
You're retired, but you don't look anyway. Weirdly, I was just 3 weeks ago at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, where the Christians believe that Christ was crucified, or there was the tomb, or the Gethsemane was just there, and Golgotha was there. And I have to admit that there is a real force. I mean, it feels like the fulcrum of three world religions. It really does, and Christianity is palpable there. The place pulses with Christianity. I don't know whether it made me believe the Bible anymore, but I certainly felt that Jesus was a historical figure. Yes, I did believe that.
Well,
am I wrong to think that?
Now, what Rachel just explained, I can relate to this, you know. When, like, for example, when me did go Jamaica, and me there in Portland, and I was in the mountains in Portland, yeah. And if you know anything about Portland, that's where Nanny Town did. So those mountains are where our so-called maroon ancestors, yes, from Moortown, which were roaming and waging war against the Europeans. So, and when you're there in the mountain, you look around, you feel the vibration, you feel the energy, yeah, the place. When we go Elmina and Cape Coast in a Ghana. I'm going to the dungeon them. If you feel the energy of your ancestor them, you know them, I can understand where Rachel has say. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? From through owner perspective. We understand where Rachel has say. Well, we could hear where Richard has say right now.
No, I mean that's quite different. But do you believe that his mother was a virgin?
Richard said, hold on, him can appreciate that, you know. Yeah, if you get, you know, you go at the place, and you feel the energy and the vibration as it associated with how that has been translated in British backgroundness. Yeah, man, we can understand that. But do you believe, say, well, you know, the Mary did, you know, she not taking no man for give birth to Pitney, basically. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You believe, say, you know, Mary never take nobody. Basically, that's what you might ask, yeah? And where Rachel say,
well, I mean, maybe that was a mistranslation of... Well, that's biologically impossible, isn't it?
Of course it is, yes.
Well, I mean, I used to make a joke that most second children are virgin births because you can... Anyway,
No, ironically, brothers and sisters, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Muslims don't actually believe that Mary was a virgin. Am I correct in saying that, brothers and sisters? Am I correct in my assessment that in Islam it is not considered the case that Jesus was born of an immaculate conception? Is that not the case? They do believe that he was taken up into Jannah or something stiesa, but the Muslims don't actually believe that Jesus was born of a Virgin Mary. They don't believe them something there. So in this instance, the Muslim belief is even closer to where Richard believe. When the Muslim belief is closer to Richard's conviction upon them subject, yeah. But still.
We don't want to go into that. Yes. But yes, you know what I'm saying. Were you pleased that Rishi Sunak talked about Christian values in his... He said Christian values are British values in his Easter message. You seem to be on the same page.
Yes, I didn't hear that. But
that's what he said.
Yes, I suppose so. But I don't want to be misunderstood.
Talked about Christian values in his... He said Christian values are British values in his Easter message.
Christian values are British values. Rachel, I asked Richard, do you agree with that statement there?
Message. You seem to be on the same page.
Yes, I didn't hear that, but
that's what he said.
Yes, I suppose so. But
yes, I suppose so. But Rachel, hola, Rachel. We know why you take the thing too far, you know, because we still near Richard Dawkins, you know. You have to know something near Richard Dawkins, so hold on there,
Rachel. I don't want to be misunderstood. I mean, I do think it's nonsense, but the Christian belief. I mean, today is Easter, and of course, I don't believe that Jesus rose from the dead, and I don't believe you do either. Do you?
Do I believe that Jesus rose from the dead? I mean, you're really putting me on the spot. I would like to believe he did. Yes, I mentioned the resurrection. I mentioned the resurrection. By the way, just quickly, because I've been told we've got to stop. When my son was 2, we took him to church, and the priest said, "You can ask me anything." And he said that my 2-year-old son asked the priest, "Do you know Jesus to be true, or do you believe Jesus to be true?" And do you see what I mean? And he couldn't answer that question himself. Anyway, yes. Oh God. Anyway, listen. Lastly, just one thing. Does it matter?
Now, hear the dub plate now. Hear the dub plate now. Dub plate. Yeah, I got drop right here now. And you know, it's upon gotkushTV, we play dub-wise selection without objection. Listen keenly. Because dub plate, I got drop right here now.
Anyway,
yes.
Oh God. Anyway, listen. Lastly, just one thing. Does it matter? I'm going to ask you again. If Christianity is a minority religion in this country?
I think it matters from a cultural point of view.
Listen, lastly, just one thing. Does it matter? I'm going to ask you again. If Christianity is a minority religion in this country?
I think it matters from a cultural point of view. I think it matters from a cultural point of view. I think it matters from a cultural point of view.
Pull up there, Richard.
I think it matters from a cultural point of view.
What Richard said a while ago?
I think it matters from a cultural point of view.
Wheel and come again, Richard.
I think it matters from a cultural point of view.
Liquid.
I think it matters from a cultural point of view.
Well,
That's a very clear answer from you, Richard Dawkins. Thank you so much for joining us.
Richard did a definitive answer, comprehensive answer. Richard did a while ago. Him say it think it matter from a cultural point of view. So Richard gave the Eurocentric answer to a question like that. Does it matter? It matters from a cultural point of view. Putting my belief aside, putting my better held conviction aside, putting my own personal aversion to religion aside, it matters from a cultural point of view. Meanwhile, we have brothers and sisters in the Black conscious community rejecting and neglecting our spiritual systems and our culture, referring to it as outdated and pseudo. Yes? Attempting to negate its importance to us as African people on the continent or in the diaspora. Meanwhile, we have brothers and sisters in the Black conscious community trying to neutralize the effectiveness of African-centered scholarship traditions that have been laid down for us by our ancestors. Sheikh Anta Diop, Mary Beth Youn, John Henry Clark, Yusuf Ben Yakanan, Chancellor Williams. You know, one time, brothers and sisters, I was told by a brother that he would not read Sheikh Anta Diop because his work is outdated. Yes? The same brother promoted works of Richard Dawkins to me. For example, The Selfish Gene. Remember me say, you know, The Selfish Gene was published in the year 1976. Sheikh Anta Diop died in 1986 and was publishing works in the 1980s. I want to the earwag. I say, I want your earwag. Yes? Sheikh Anta Diop is outdated. But a book that a Bakra wrote in the 1970s is still relevant to it today. You see how Eurocentricity trap us, chat we, and have we, I think, a kind of foolishness. But Sheikh Anta Diop is outdated. We have brothers and sisters. And I'm focusing on the Black conscious community because the Black conscious community should be a space from which we challenge Eurocentric hegemony. But increasingly, it's becoming a space whereby Eurocentric hegemony is affirmed to the negation and rejection of African-centered paradigms. We have in the Black conscious community brothers and sisters trying to negate the relationship of the Nile Valley to the rest of Africa, geographically and culturally. And creating and fabricating all kinds of arguments to justify that inclination. Why? Because Bakra Master Scholarship tell them, say, you must do that. Even though there are some elements of the Bakra Master Scholarship community that are affirming things that Diop and them say from how much years ago. That exists too. But when it comes to the cultural continuity of Black Africa, as painstakingly laid down and explained by our luminaries, there are many even in the Black conscious community who want to dismantle that framework and ask, well, what is Black really? What is African really? Bearing in mind, you know, that our liberation traditions, scholarship and otherwise, are a part of our culture. I want to let us know that. trying to dismantle and neutralize the vibration and the energy, to the point whereby increasingly white saviors or would-be white saviors are being brought in to challenge and debate brothers and sisters who affirm African-centered modalities scholastically, intellectually, or spiritually. It's a mad thing that I've seen in the last year, the amount of white saviors that have been brought in to destroy a brethren. Because you don't like what the brethren are dealing with. And all of the white saviors have failed. They've all failed. It's an amazing situation. Some of them even cancel the debate before they even get out of the debate. They've all failed. But their failure is less important to me than their attempted weaponization of these Bakra against well-established sensibilities within our community that are not false, them no wrong, but because brothers and sisters have now aligned themselves culturally with Bakra institutions, they feel that they must do the work of Bakra institutions, when one of the patron saints of the Society of Skeptics is affirming British Bakra culture in spite of his atheist, his virulent, aggressive atheist inclinations. And if you look at all of his reasoning, it's because of the role that it plays in the British understanding of themselves and the role that it plays in promoting British interests on the world stage. Yet we want for Dashwe Isheshe. We want for Dashwe Vudan. We want for Dashwe Kumina. Yeah? We want for Dashwe Lukumi. We want for Dashwe Neteru. Yes, may I include Neteru in our African cultural expression. Yeah. Neteru, Asar and Aset, Amin Ra and Nutan Geb and Shu and Tefnut. Yeah. Just as African and Black African as Oshun and Ogun, as Maolisa Sebo, as Dambala and Erzilidanto. Yeah, that way I say. As Sakpata. Yeah. So it's a lesson for us, brothers and sisters, about cultural appreciation. And the role of culture in forming the people's identity and their interest in today's world. Richard understood clearly, based upon what he said, he would prefer, he's on the Christian side as far as the Christian-Muslim divide in Africa is concerned. Why does he even feel that he has a say in that debate? What gives Richard the impression that him have a say in a Fiwi business, that his opinion matters on what he would prefer in Africa? What gives him that impression, apart from the hubris of British Bakraness? Brothers and sisters, feel free to join the conversation. The lines are open. The lines are open. The link to join the panel is pinned to the top of the chat. You can also ask your questions in and make your comments in the chat also. Just at gotkushTV. Please at gotkushTV if you want your comment read out. Be at yourself, Melanated God. It's good to have you in the building. And I haven't been checking the chat since I've been talking, brothers and sisters. So forgive me if I have neglected to star your comment so far. But once again, brothers and sisters, if you would like your comment read out, please at gotkushTV so I can differentiate between inter chat discourse and comments and questions that you would like to be read out. You can make a comment or a question. The link is in the chat. The link is in the chat, and you can click it if you want to come live and speak to us vocally. I do prefer people to have their videos on, but we're not going to distress the dance too tough, yeah? If brothers and sisters at ShakaRa, I'm not going to deny it, but I'll prefer if you at gotkushTV, all right? Because a few of you have done that, and I think I might have missed a few in the past as well when people are at in ShakaRa as opposed to at in gotkushTV. I say at gotkushTV because that's what I'm looking for. Okay, brothers and sisters. There's only a couple. But yeah, I want to know what the people them think we're Richard I say. You know what I mean? Where you think about where Richard I say? You know what I'm saying? This is the white savior of white saviors, you know, as far as many are concerned at the moment. Many are trying to apply Richard Dawkins' principles of atheism to African spiritual systems, while negating the fact that Richard Dawkins' principles of atheism were developed and generated as a response to Eurocentric understanding of spirituality and religion. But we think that we can apply those principles wholesale to an analysis of our culture while denying the cultural genocide that we have been subjected to for the better part of 500 years, brothers and sisters. But we want to bring Richard Dawkins skepticism in our food culture. As a framework for the negation of our culture. Mad thing, brothers and sisters. Mad thing. All right. So I can only see a couple comments. I'm going to get to them now. Let me just go through one more time to make sure I don't miss nothing. You know what I mean? And get the at ShakaRas as well. I think I missed the at ShakaRas. So let me go through now. Bigging up Dr. Talawa in the building. Bigging up the... Oh, let me get to this as well. I forgot to do this at the beginning of the show, brothers and sisters. But you're all here right now. And it is my duty and responsibility to make you know that on Kujichagulia Day, Monday, the 8th of April, we will be gathering all around the world with our drums. Yeah, drum for freedom, calling for millions of drummers around the world. And the times are 5 p.m. as far as the UK is concerned, 12 p.m. EST, 11 a.m. CST, 9 a.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. in Ghana, and 6 p.m. as far as Congo is concerned. We are going to be gathering to drum for freedom and send out the positive spiritual vibration and energy for our people in Haiti, chanting against foreign intervention in Haiti. We are going to be supporting our brothers and sisters in the United States of America, chanting for the shutdown of Angola prison in Louisiana, which is a central hub for the exploitation of African people in the United States of America. We are also going to be drumming for sending the spiritual energy to our people in the Congo. We must stop the genocide in the Congo that is being perpetrated by Western imperialists. This call was put out by Mama Azili Danto. And do stay tuned for more from Mama Azili Danto. But she put out the call recently, and so we're going to be organizing to do that. There is, because the call was only recently put out, as in less than 24 hours ago, there's still plans in terms of communal observances in this regard. I am sure there will be some in London, but we will make sure that we bring the information about those things to you. Yeah, so if it's not on a live, you will hear it via our social media, via our mailing list, etc., etc., etc. So do make sure you're following gotkushTV at gotkushTV on all of our social media, so that you can find out wherever you are. Well, especially if you're in London, where we're going to be gathering communally at 5 p.m. to engage in this drumming vibration. Yeah. We're going to be bringing out the drum and engaging the energy of our culture. Yeah, just like Richard, loving theme Christmas Carol Well, we and me love the drum. The rhythm of the drum, and where we beat drum for. Yeah, that we depend. All right, brothers and sisters. So we're going to stand with our brothers and sisters in Haiti. We're going to stand with our brothers and sisters in the USA. We're going to stand with our brothers and sisters in Congo. And our brothers and sisters all around the world, brothers and sisters, as we engage that energy. The link is in the chat. Brothers and sisters, if you want to join the panel, I'm going to take your comments right now. Heru says, who in the Black conscious community is promoting Richard Dawkins? I'm not calling name today. I'm not calling name today. But them know who them is. And them friend I listen right here now. Yeah. But I'm just saying, and I'm not saying some of them don't necessarily do this explicitly, but you understand, if you understand Richard Dawkins and how his frameworks have been popularized, then you will recognize those talking points. Not just those talking points, the style of rhetoric. Yes, when you approach it, yeah, within Black conscious circles, particularly online. You will find it among brothers and sisters who are attempting to promote the virtues of science as far as the Black community is concerned and the Black conscious community is concerned. However, you will find it among brothers and sisters who promote science as though they are the only ones discussing science, as though science is not something that is appreciated by the conscious community at large or the Pan-African community in general. In specific, sorry. You will find them discussing science as though it is oppositional to an exploration and an affirmation of African spirituality and culture. You will find them promoting science outside of the context of geopolitical considerations, economic considerations, which is the framework within which scientific exploration takes place. Them no know, say Marcus Garvey teach that we must raise a generation of scientists par excellence. Them no know, say the Center for Kwame Nkrumah was investing heavily in the scientific development in terms of the human capital and expertise within the nation of Ghana and throughout the African continent. That's just two examples. Them don't know about Wangari Maathai and her work in terms of environmental concerns. Them don't know about Thomas Sankara and the people of Burkina Faso and how they planted over 1 million trees in the nation of Burkina Faso to challenge the expansion of the desertification in West Africa. Whilst rejecting an IMF loan and a World Bank loan and a French loan. They don't know them thing there. So what we are saying, brothers and sisters, today, this is the essential point, and I appreciate the prompt on this, because this is the essential point. That our scientific exploration and discovery is not a substitute for the affirmation of our culture as African people, for the pursuit of our interests, our political and economic interests as African people. Because one of the things that I have noticed is that when brothers and sisters harp on this scientific reasoning, their appreciation of science tends to be inextricably linked to an allegiance to Western institutions and what comes out of Western institutions and the frameworks that are promoted by Western institutions. It's my observation. That the same people are promoting science are also saying Pan-Africanism is no longer relevant. It's outdated because we live in a multicultural society. They're not inspired to engage science and apply the benefits of science to the development of a Pan-African reality in pursuit of world African sovereignty, in challenging the systems of international Bakra imperialism in today's world. They're not inspired to do these things. It's amazing to me. They might tell you about NASA. But not, for example, engaged in, while they're telling us that Sheikh Anta Diop is outdated, they're not inspired to pick up the work of Sheikh Anta Diop as outlined in the book Black Africa, the economic and cultural basis for a federated state. They're not inspired to pick up that work in terms of how do we develop sustainable energy sources for our majority black nations around the world. That is a concern that Sheikh Anta Diop was involved in exploring in that book. And whilst we are busy picking up Charles Darwin and affirming his everlasting relevance from the 1800s until now, we are putting down Sheikh Anta Diop and declaring him outdated because he did in 1980. We put down Marcus Garvey. And pick up Charles Darwin. Empress Kushti.
What's up, bro?
What
Great
about
to
it?
know. Yes, I was enjoying it. You had me laughing and nodding my head all the way through. The audacity. But I just found it interesting before the end part where he actually referred to himself earlier as a cultural Christian and as an atheist. That's what I just kept on thinking to myself. And as you've said, and the family said in the chat, it's just the alliance of sticking to a code. And I just kind of was just thinking to myself, okay, so if the unspoken message here is that an atheist can say that he's culturally Christian, and that makes sense, right? Because there's an underlined in message there than the factual, because if you say that out loud, that makes no sense, but there's an underlying message there that makes absolute sense. What are the Christians in the continent of Africa or the Caribbean, right? If the underlying message of what a cultural African is, and it just coincides to what you were saying when I was waiting in the back, that in reality it's assimilation to the Western culture. That's what it boils down to. And unfortunately that even translates when we look back home, because wherever we call home, whether it's the Caribbean or the continent, or all of us as Pan-Africans, we see it as all of our homes, we can kind of see that narrative play out where we are culturally very westernized.
It's a powerful point, you know, sis. It's a powerful point. So like ones ask me if I'm Rastafari, and you know, I say yes or no sometimes, yeah, in the sense of I'm not necessarily theologically Rastafari, but I'm culturally Rastafari. You know what I'm saying? Rastafari as an, like, I tend to claim all in like African retentions. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I'm if you ask me, am I Kumina? Yeah, I'm not Kumina in the sense that I grew up in a Kumina community in Jamaica, but I am culturally Kumina. Absolutely. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So all of these things I embrace, and that's me now. I would say that anybody with a Pan-African inclination coming out of the Caribbean is in some way, shape, or form culturally Rastafari, because of the extent to which Rastafari made Pan-Africanism a way of life. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that Pan-Africanism and Pan-African inclination a way of life. Yeah, in that respect. And then now, like, you go to places whereby just now, but at the same time, there are those who would say that Rastafari, because many expressions of Rastafari give credence to the Bible, will consider Rastafari an Abrahamic tradition, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you got to places. We've got Christian expressions, we've got Christian religious quote unquote denominations that are very African in their expression, let's say. Yes, all around the world. And a similar thing exists on the continent as far as Islam is concerned, right? So I've been to Sierra Leone, for example, yeah? Mm-hmm. And Freetown, Sierra Leone, you got a lot of Christians, but I would say the dominant energy is Islamic, yeah? To the point where I went there during Ramadan, and everybody fast, yeah. If it's even 2 days a week, yeah, everybody fast. Christian, Muslim, traditionalists, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like at some, like most people observe the fast of Ramadan in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not fully, but because culturally the religion has had an impact, yeah. So people just know that Ramadan is being observed right now, and it revolves around now. So you have very Africanized, right? So you have very Africanized expressions of Islam in places like Senegal and places like Mali, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and whatever my own personal inclination as far as the religion question is concerned, I can appreciate how those African cultural retentions have been expressed in that context, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes.
But because we've been taught to centralize and give privilege to cultures other than our own, we will even look at our own retention through the lens of the religion, so to speak. So we look at Africanized Christian expressions through a Christian lens, as though they're not African, if that makes sense. Yeah? So you've got a lot of revivalists, yeah, in the Caribbean context, who would bun the retention that is 1 degree more African than them. Right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the revivalists,
it's like a hierarchy.
Right. There's a hierarchy of who forget fire, and who's outside the glory, yeah, so to speak. Right. So the revivalists would bun the Poker, yeah, the Poker church, and the Poker church might bun the Shango, yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? And it got down the line, and the Shango might bun the Obia or whatever, yeah, and it just got on the line, yeah. And then a similar thing exists in expressions of Islam in on the continent, whereas the hard line Muslim is gonna bun, you know, the Murid, for example, yeah. And the Murid might bun the Bayafal, or, you know what I'm saying, whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'm good on the line here. So the point I'm making is that whereas Richard is seeing things in the context of what is his British culture and what is culturally British, oftentimes we kind of do a reverse. Even though we might be in practice retaining the culture, intellectually, we may not be engaging it in that kind of way. And so one of the things that I want to emphasize is that we should do that. That we shouldn't be afraid and ashamed to affirm our culture, whatever our religious inclination. Yes. In that way. You got a response to that, or anything more to say on this point?
Yeah, and I agree with you 100% of what you said to that. And it also talks to the fact of what you was mentioning, that although back home we have these institutions, whether it's Christianity or Islam, you'll still see, especially within the African continent, where they might be staunch Christian, but they might go to what we'd call that maybe an Obeah man for some things, or they're still terrified of them, so they still pick and choose when they. And I just think that it can be seen as pick and choosing, but it's just also that battle, that conscious battle, that spirit that still cannot just. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's going on, and it's so ironic when you talk to that and when you say that, you know, them choosing to go towards Islam or Christianity, because we understand that he said it out of his own mouth, that that's fundamentally the West. It's like going back to being British or going back to being white. But as you said, if we don't understand the culture behind it, we miss the whole underlying thing, where and we miss it so much. It goes over our heads so much that on big TV, I don't know if that was BBC or not, that looked like it could
LBC.
Oh, LBC, right? Which is kind of like the a lot of people watch that. It's quite rated, right? So it goes over our heads to that point where you have this man coming on who's quite, I don't know, highly acclaimed in his field, where he could turn around and say, as an atheist, I'm still a Christian. That's how much it goes over our head, that we can allow that to be said and no one questions that, because the underlying message is understood, but factually it makes no sense, because these institutions are not just about a religion, it's about the culture, it's about the race. And that's what you're saying. And I just think, like you said, if we don't understand that, we miss a trick where someone can say that to our face and we don't question it. So
Definitely.
you're absolutely right.
There's a reason why the Roman Catholic Church looks very different to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, brothers and sisters. There's a reason for these things. Anyway, but stay where you are, Empress Kushti. We'll come back to you if you so wish. Setimotep, greetings.
Can I be clearly heard?
Yes, King.
All right, I'm using a new mic today, so I had to try out something.
Nice.
Peace and African power to everybody under the sound of my voice. I think I want to start off with a confession. I might be one of those persons who look down on, you know, our African syncretic religions by virtue of, but in the opposite way though, by virtue of not being African enough, you know. In, I mean, it's not really very serious, but as in terms of the spiritual Baptists, the Shango Baptists versus, let's say, the Ishishi or the Ifa practitioners in Trinidad and Tobago, you'll definitely find me drifting towards Ishishi and Ifa before I go to a spiritual Baptist. So yeah, just you know, telling on myself for that one. But this show in particular was really, I was excited for it when I saw it pop up, because Richard Dawkins has a very, I shy away from using the word special place at this point, but the cliche is he has a special place in my my development, in my intellectual development, for two reasons, right?
Yes.
Number one, while I was exploring my anti-Catholicism, having grown up in the Catholic Church and recognizing the role that the Catholic Church had played in the oppression of our ancestors and the continuing oppression of our contemporaries on the continent and in the diaspora, I began to look for arguments, let's say, to help me sort out what I was experiencing, like my crisis of faith, I think they call it, right? And so I was very familiar with the new atheists, as they were also called, which includes other people that you didn't mention. Neil deGrasse Tyson was at one point one of them. Lawrence Krauss. I mentioned Sam Harris. And of course Richard Dawkins. So I read The Selfish Gene and The God Delusion as a child, well, as a teenager. You understand what I mean? And eventually, actually, I was named up my father on the show, but I eventually also shared it with my father to help him get out of his own Anglican upbringing and find some of the arguments, you know, against some of the foolishness that certain religious people speak about, right?
Yes.
But then, when Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens, I don't think Dawkins was really very vocal at the time, but when Harris and Hitchens began to become quite vocally anti-Islamic, let's say, in a way that you don't see, in a vitriolic way that you never saw them really represent towards Christianity, I began to wonder, well, what is this? What is this?
Where that come from?
What is this animus towards Islam? And that actually led me to research in Islam and also researching the what do you call it? The geopolitical implications that resound, that echo behind Islam and Muslim and Middle East in the public eye and in the public consciousness. So it's actually, so Richard Dawkins has a twofold, how should I say? I have a twofold gratitude for Richard Dawkins. Number one, for getting me out of the Roman Catholic Church, and number two, for getting me out of the atheist community. Right? Just because I recognize that there's a big blind spot in a lot of those, you know, Western white intellectuals, where they actually think that they are aware about things that they have no concept of. Like the way that he says, I can't remember what the exact quote was. There was a comparison that he made. The virgin birth. That's what it was. As far as I'm aware, Muslims don't believe in the virgin birth of Mary either. But I'm sure he is unaware of that. If you understand what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, he pontificates very confidently. He and others, I'm not going to put it on Dawkins alone, pontificate very confidently about these cultures which they have no understanding of. And it is actually because of their vitriol against Islam that led me to research Islam, recognize some of the indigenous expressions of Islam in Africa, but also some of the different iterations it's gone through, recognizing that these people who were living in the so-called Dark Ages would not have had the Renaissance if it were not for the Islamic Golden Age preserving and translating a lot of these Greek records for them. You know, so it them showing the hypocrisy on such a grand scale about while I kind of held them as intellectual heroes. Obviously, I didn't have any race consciousness at this point in time, but I'm saying I held them as intellectual heroes. It really kind of showed me, you know, these people will lie confidently, even in the highest positions of power. You know, so as I say, I owe a double debt to Dawkins for kind of disabusing me of a few notions about the way that you.
No. Bro, let it not be said. Plenty Dawkins me listen to in my time, you know. Plenty Hitchens too. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And all of these things. I like intellectual, you know, any kind of intellectual discourse, generally speaking. There's not many things that I'm not interested in, intellectually. So I would at least listen to an argument, right? Plenty preacher, Christian preacher, me watch, you know, my time. Yeah, I've never been a Christian. Well, so I can appreciate some good preaching, right? you know what I'm saying, yeah? So that's sort of thing go. All right. Plenty Imam and Sheikh. Yeah, me listen to it at my time, and that's sort of thing go. All right.
That's the truth.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know, you listen to everything, right? So and as I said, you can't sum out what you don't know, right? So and let's not get it twisted. Let it not be said that in analyzing the pronouncements of Dawkins today, we are asserting that one should not study his work in as much as we have things to learn, especially as it relates to science, evolution and so on and so forth. All right, let it not be said that is what is being said here today. Yeah. Now, to your point about the traditions, the retentions, and I guess I'm similar in the sense that I'm always looking for the African. All right. So when I see an African spiritual retention, I'm appreciating it for for that which is African within it. Yeah. You know, so even if they pull out a Bible, I'm not so much interested in the Bible, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm interested in, you know, how they've put that into whatever, you know, spiritual system has been developed. Yeah. In that sense. And what I've appreciated more and more is the extent to which we, especially those of us in the Caribbean, have to start there in terms of or have to appreciate that manifestation in terms of our understanding of who we are as African people. Yeah, because however watered down it is, we are there and our ancestors are there, right? And we have to appreciate that. We're not going to jump over that hurdle, because that is the sojourn that brought us to where we are right about now. So we have to go through that overstanding there. I was watching there's a channel called the Institute of what a thing name? Talawa. What's the institute called again? It's got a channel on YouTube. The Institute of African Culture or something like that in Jamaica or something like that. Yeah, and they were dealing with they had a panel of a spiritual Baptist, a Rastafari spiritual Baptist, and something else. We can't remember, but the other thing was similar to spiritual Baptist, but they're two different denominations, so to speak. Yeah, and they asked one of the spiritual Baptists, one of the people in the audience asked the spiritual Baptist a question about the difference between he must have said like Kumina and the spiritual Baptist, and he said because the spiritual Baptists deal with Kumina in a film thing. For those who don't know, Kumina is an African spiritual retention that comes from Congo, Central Africa, that is preserved in Jamaica. All right, and the brethren say, well, on one level, when you're dealing with it, it's not a separation. It's just levels to the thing. Is basically what he said. So when you come on now, it's general praise and worship. We're going to deal with the angels and Mary and Ray Tete. When it comes to Kumina, no, Kumina is a deeper level to the thing, you say, right? It's that deeper level. So when we get to Kumina, no, we're not dealing with Mary and angel and everything there. It's ancestor we are dealing with, yeah? You know what I'm saying? So when you go to the Kumina, no, it's a deeper level to the thing, yeah? And it's when you get to that, no, it's nature and the water and the fire and the earth, and it's the ancestor that we are dealing with. So even within that, you might look at it and say, Christian business, run away with that. But within it, if you're going at it, you'll find, the things them that we're looking for in that respect. And there was one other point I was going to make. In relation to now, one thing that interested me about Hitchens is that he was very much against, if I'm not mistaken, or at least at one point, the invasion of Iraq. Yeah. If I remember,
at one point, yes.
Yeah. He had some of the earliest arguments against it, virulently against it at one point. Yes, I don't remember. I've not seen Dawkins take that position. I'm not saying he hasn't. I'm saying that's one difference between them. Yeah, but the point I want to make is that, and this is not a Dawkins position, but in the neo-Darwinian school, you have a thing that is called social Darwinism. Yes, which is built upon the idea of survival of the fittest. This is now not a consideration of science and evolution and human biological development. This is a justification for selfishness as the defining characteristic of human behavior. This is extrapolating the idea of the selfish gene as defined by Dawkins as emblematic of the fact that arrogant and selfish self-interest is the dominant sensibility in human behavior. Where am I going with this, brothers and sisters? This is the same argument put forward by the neoclassical economists that promote the systems of hypercapitalism and promote capitalism not just as an economic system, but as the natural order of things, a natural way of life for human beings based upon the idea, and I do say the idea, that our genes are selfish, therefore our behavior is selfish, therefore the dominant sensibility in our social and therefore our political economy is going to be a selfish inclination. That them I promote. Yeah, so go ahead.
I suspect that there's like a flaw in logic within the development of that theory, in that even I don't know if genes, I don't know that genes are the same as cells, but even within our body, our cells work in tandem to get things done, even if we want to make it, a cellular thing, but also that human beings are social animals. I don't think that this is disputable or in dispute. So human beings are social animals for the reason, that things are easier to get done in a group than they are going by yourself. I don't understand how these two things live together.
It would seem obvious, right? But even Dawkins, because Dawkins now he named the book The Selfish Gene. So Dawkins says that if he would hope, so Dawkins is not a social Darwinist, yeah, as far as I'm aware. So he doesn't promote rugged selfishness and survival of the fittest and that kind of thing as a social ideal, okay? But what he does say is that if he would hope for us to be cooperative as human beings, but if we're going to find a foundation from which to do so, our genes will not be that foundation because our genes are selfish. Yeah, our genetic coding in words is selfish. That's what he says. Yeah, that's his argument. All right. So he would want us to negate our basic genetic inclination for the sake of developing a more cooperative society. But the idea that I'm emphasizing here is that even for him, who would want a more cooperative society, that cooperation goes against our basic instincts as human beings. All right. Now, this is why it's important to not just follow popular intellectuals, because if you go a bit deeper into genetic science and biology and so on and so forth, there are scientists who challenge that particular reading of human development and human genetic and biological development. One of them, yes, is a biologist and a physiologist. Sorry, brothers and sisters, by the name of Dennis Noble. Yeah, check out Dennis Noble, who is challenging. I remember I said the selfish gene was published in 1976, and Dennis Noble is saying that a lot of what Dawkins has said in terms of selfish gene and competitiveness of genes is true up to a point, but once you get to that point, how does the thing manifest? And as a physiologist, he's basically saying that some of the frameworks and how people are applying those frameworks, the field of genetics and human biology has moved beyond that point. Yes, but he doesn't believe that the popular discourse has caught up with what the actual science is teaching us, because the popular discourse is dominated by the idea of the selfish gene. Yeah. Again, I'm not an expert on these matters, brothers and sisters. All right. I'm just encouraging you to listen to a broader spectrum of the discourse. Yeah. So Dennis Noble. Yeah. And one of the things that is interesting about Dennis Noble is that because he's a physiologist, he's looking at the body as components of a complete whole. So he's naturally, by virtue of his expertise, he's naturally inclined to see interrelationship. And what he's arguing is that really all of this only makes sense. Like when you look at genes, one of the arguments that he makes is that when you look at the mapping of genes, people have spent billions of dollars over decades mapping gene sequences in the human body and all kind of different things. And he says that a lot of that research hasn't produced what the people that were engaging it were promising 20, 30 years ago in terms of mad advances into curing various different illnesses. Because if you can understand what genes, yes, are responsible for triggering different things in the body, you can cure certain diseases and kind of shape human biology in particular kinds of ways. And what he's arguing is that because of the fact that genes are not just responsible for one thing, they're responsible in concert with other genes for all kinds of different things. Yeah. So in reality, to understand this, you have to look. You have to study the interrelationship of genes, not just diffuse the gene into this function and that function. And it only makes sense when you are engaging with it as an interrelated matrix. Yeah, so to speak. But most people are not looking at it like that. Yeah, and there is no social theory, right, that is based upon that kind of, well, I should say social theory in the Western world that is based upon that kind of biological understanding. You know what is? When we say Ubuntu. Because Ubuntu is a philosophy that is based upon our relationship to other people and the cosmos as a whole. So our economic and political systems evolve based upon that cosmic understanding. Yet, the people them I tell we say, we must read Dawkins. And that's where shake and to the up. And the cultural unity of Black Africa. Boy, that's what the thing go. Panel, stay where you are. I don't want to neglect the chat and the comments here because it's like on a wait for the last 15 minutes for sending a whole heap of comment in the chat. Yeah. So I'm just gonna go through these comments right about now. So let me get into this thing. Bigging up, man, like big brother Kamal Rashid. If you have not seen our session with Kamal Rashid on martial arts and African people, check it out, brothers and sisters. It's a beautiful conversation, and I've been meditating on that conversation recently, you know, brother Kamal, and I would love to do a follow up at some point, yeah, because there's so much more to explore. Took my son to a capoeira lesson the other day, actually, but yeah, I've got this vision of African wrestling and capoeira. You know, like how people are bringing systems together, and like, yeah, I've got this idea. Like, I'm seeing this thing in my head about wrestling and capoeira forming a new system. I'm not trying to bring it into existence. It's just I like just looking at things. I'm seeing it, right? If that makes sense. But anyway, Brother Kamal Rashid says an Akan proverb. Oh, why are you doing this to me, Kamal Rashid? You're testing my capacity to read tree. Okay, Echem tete. Eka ne meramu. When the shield wears out, its framework remains intact. When the shield wears out, its framework remains intact. I love Brother Kamal, you know, because he's always got the right proverb for the moment. This is beautiful. When the shield wears out, the framework remains intact. It's a beautiful. I don't even want to explain it because it might detract from the beauty of the statement, the simplicity of the statement itself. Yeah, but for ones and ones who are listening, you'll be able to identify how this proverb relates to our conversation today. When the shield wears out, its framework remains intact. Cultures evolve, you know. Yeah, that's another myth that people want to. When we affirm African culture, we're asking people to go back 200 years, you know, and that's where modern technology and, you know what I'm saying, live a sedentary life with Nokia and a mobile phone and all of these things. Not to say that there's not a value in that, living that kind of a life, but that's not what we're saying when we affirm African culture. Yes, but that's another subject for another time. Give thanks to Brother Kamal. Melaman says, don't think we forget about. All right, you know what? Bad as it's coming, yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I have been thrown off the course because things are going in Sudan and things are going in Haiti and Senegal and all kind of different thing. And I'm sure you can appreciate I've had to prioritize them thing there, plus, you know, family duties and all these things. But no, bad as I come, don't worry, yeah. I'm gonna say, cause Melaman, we know where you depend. You know, you want the woman them, you want the woman them to come around more. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but I'm gonna pre the woman them, you know, not the wrong still, not the wrong, you know, woman for pre still, you know what I mean? The Magwezi channel says, Gotkush, I was going to say the difference between the African expressions of Abraham practice versus Dawkins is that the African community may begin to degrade the African culture due to colonialism. This is true. Yeah. This is very, very true, in fact. That because of the fact that even the African retentions get an attack, many people believe that the only way to overcome that is to further and further Christianize, that is to say, Europeanize the practice, yeah, and the spiritual systems. This is true. And that is why it is extremely important for us to affirm our African cultural matrix and make it a part of our consciousness. Because it's possible, you know, coming out of a colonial context, to be in African culture without consciously engaging it. And when you are unable to consciously engage in it, it becomes subject to political manipulation. And in other words, you are unable to assert your culture in the pursuit of your own political and economic interests, because the culture of the colonizer is always primary. Because the culture of the colonizer is always given primacy, everything else is judged from that framework. So yeah, excellent point. The Mugwezi channel. Sorry, Mageuzi channel. Tell me if I'm pronouncing that correct. It sounds like a Kikongo word. Mageuzi channel. Kikongo, Southern Africa. Let me know what language that is. gotkushTV, a great book to read is Christianity, Islam, and the Negro by our ancestor Edward Wilmot Blyden. Yes, indeed, very good book. And what's most important in that book is what his considerations are. Yeah, ones may disagree with his conclusion, but when you get his when you understand what he's trying to get at, yeah, and what his considerations are, then you will appreciate even the book, even if you disagree with his conclusion. Yeah, so I'll agree with that. Another good book to read from Blyden, though, is it's on the bookshelf, you know. I'll tell you in a second. I'm gonna have to remember because in that book, is it called African Religion? No, that's not Blyden. I'll tell you in a sec, brothers and sisters. Give me a sec. Why am I forget? African Life and Customs, not African Religion and Customs. African Life and Customs, because there he engages in an analysis of African culture and what it produces socially, yes, among African people, and encourages us not to take on colonizer culture and colonizer capitalist economic systems as well, yeah, within the context of that book, yeah. African Life and Customs from Edward Wilmot Blyden. Probably his least regarded book, but one of his most important books in my humble estimation. Big Brother Kamal says, in the early 2010s, I met a number of black atheists who were both atheists and profoundly Eurocentric. Yeah. This is what it means to follow the intellectual lead of the West. Definitely. Yeah. There are systems of critique and so on in our indigenous African cultures and spiritual systems. That's why our spiritual systems don't look today like they did 100 years ago. It's not just because of colonization, it's because that there have been genuine evolutions within the systems themselves. Yeah. But for us as African people, we have to be very careful about these things because of the fact that if, as has been said, and I meant to quote this earlier, religion is the deification of a people's culture, Baba Yusuf Ben Yakanan. Therefore, the religion empowers the people within whose culture the religion is expressed. Our primary principles and values of social, political, and economic organization are not housed, generally speaking, in texts like the Bible and the Quran, and so on and so forth. And that's not saying that those things don't exist. Yeah. So, for example, Adinkra is a text. For example, Insabidi is a text. For example, a lot of our iconography, yeah, are text, if you understand them, yeah, ideographs and so on and so forth, yeah, if you understand them properly. But they are housed in our rituals, yeah, in the principles that are preserved in our spiritual systems, okay? And so if we're looking at it from a cultural point of view, and if one wants to say, which is a statement that doesn't even make sense, yeah, if you understand what this mean, what the term like Oludumare or Ifa or isheshe means. Yeah, like it's, if you understand what those terms mean, it doesn't make sense to say I don't believe in isheshe, or I don't believe in ifa, or I don't believe in oludumare. Those statements don't make sense. Yeah, within an African-centered paradigm, it doesn't make any sense within the African worldview. But if one wants to say that, yeah, but one affirms their cultural allegiance and affirmation of the same, then one will be able to derive social principles, economic principles, political principles, and values from the same. Yeah, that's why it's very important. Atheism is a fundamentally Western and Eurocentric paradigm. You have to understand and appreciate that. Brother Kamal also says the basic ontological being how we understand the nature of the self. Yeah. Question is whether competition or cooperation is the basic nature of the human organism. Yes. What do our ancestral paradigms say about this? Now, you can answer this question just as well as me, Brother Kamal. So I don't know why you ask me the question. If I jump on the panel and answer this question, yeah. Now, the dominant, we can say without fear or favor, that the dominant sensibility, social principle among African people and among African cultures considered collectively is cooperation. Yeah, we can affirm that is the dominant sensibility. But the question is that, looking at it from a Eurocentric point of view now, perspective now, because things must always be oppositional. So they define the basic human sensibility as selfishness or competition. Therefore, any attempts at cooperation are somehow anti our basic human inclination. Whilst the dominant sensibility is cooperation, does that mean we negate competition? Is there a place for competition within African culture? And I would suggest that there is. Yes, because we understand that we're holistic beings. Even as much as we have a cooperative inclination, we have a competitive inclination because we're whole beings. So it would be silly of us to develop a whole system, a whole social system that completely rejects competition as a human endeavor. Yeah? And so you find ways and means to engage in competition that do not destroy the social fabric of the community. And I'm soon to be releasing part 2 of our extended read of Nana Amos Wilson's Blueprint for Black Power, the social and cultural origins of power. I'm set to be releasing that soon, whereby we go into an analysis of this and the extent to which the society in which we live actually engages in competition, whilst it promotes competition, and the extent to which it's impossible for us as African people trying to solve the problems that we are trying to solve, to do so from the perspective of hyper-individualist, hyper-competitive, me against the world type philosophy. We're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. But yes, the dominant sensibility within an African framework, within an African cultural framework, and that is studying various different African cultures in their independent and unique expressions. We can say, based upon, and I'm going to use this terminology that I don't like to use, but somehow now going to hear me, I say, let's me use it. If we look at the anthropologists, people that study culture, we can definitely say that the dominant. Now, that doesn't mean that there are not spaces and periods and systems within our historical experience whereby competition, the balance has weighed in competitiveness over cooperation. That's not. We're saying that the dominant is cooperation, and furthermore, the dominant needs to be cooperation. Cooperation. I want to make that clear. Not corporation. Yeah, cooperation. Yes, if we are going to solve the problems that we are trying to solve as African people in today's world. Right. Is there anything that I've missed? I've got a few more comments to read. All on there. gotkushTV, it is often said that religion is hard to define within religious studies. The definition you provide is a deification of people's culture. If we deify our culture, what would that religion be? It wouldn't be a single religion. Yeah, it wouldn't be a single religion in my humble estimation. And many of us have problems with the words religion. It would be a culture and a way of life that situates specific expressions within a matrix of relatedness to other expressions, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it wouldn't require the Yoruba to have to negate and leave the Isheshe. Yes. It wouldn't require the Igbo to have to negate Ordinala. It wouldn't require the Fon to negate Vudan. It wouldn't require the Zulu to negate Iziuntu. All it would mean is that we are emphasizing the central essence, the shared essence of these various different expressions and appreciating their value in relationship to each other. Furthermore, we are developing our political and economic systems based upon the values and principles that we have preserved in these spiritual systems. It would mean that we affirm our ancestors as just as worthy of praise as the ancestors of any other group of people. But it doesn't mean that Obatala is now superior and in competition with Mumbi of the Kikuyu, for example. It doesn't mean that Namdi and Shaka Zulu is now in competition with Kimpavita and Mfumo Kibangu of Bakongo. If you follow my vibration, we don't have to engage in that kind of competitiveness, yes, among each other. It's not necessary. But it would mean that we have a shared appreciation for our ancestors collectively, generally, and specifically. And in the same way that others have deified, yes, deified Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and made Jesus of Nazareth and Muhammad of Mecca and Medina central to how they view themselves spiritually and culturally, that we will feel no shame to do the same with our own ancestors. No shame. As Miss Lou said, we're not feeling no shame at all. We're not feeling shame of the things we have at all. That's what it would mean. And I hope that answers your question. It would also mean, sorry, I should say that even when we are in, and most of us are in Abrahamic religion, so I'm going to use that as an example, that we are not ashamed of engaging our culture, even as we are in those religions. That we are not ashamed to view and engage the religion from our own cultural foundation, our own cultural matrix. That we don't feel like we have to de-Africanize ourselves in order to be closer to God, so to speak. Trigger Happy says competition can be used as the basis of bettering other people around you, for example, so that in that sense it can be congruent with cooperate. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that rites of passage programs and them kind of things there among Africans systems. Yeah, you'll find elements of competition. The boys and the girls and so on and so forth will compete against each other in certain regards. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? You know, I was playing a warrior with my son today. Yeah, a warrior is a competition. You have to win the game. You know what I'm saying? But I would not engage competition with my son in terms of dinner. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, when it comes to dinner, cooperation have to go on. That's the only thing go. You know what I'm saying? You know. All right. Mageuzi says the real problem here is that the conscious community has no real idea. I'm sure there's a word missing there. What being African is. Their entire framework is based on what is not European, but not necessarily what is African. Yeah. So yeah, I'd agree with that to a degree. Also the problem is though is that a lot of people that are engaging in conscious community discourse are not engaging in conscious community organization. And so the purpose for the discourse is lost on many. Yes? Why are we here? Why are these discussion points even important? Yeah. See, Richard Dawkins is clear about his geopolitical interests. And his science and his engaging in intellectual pursuits and discourse doesn't replace that allegiance. Yes. Whereas more and more people are trying to dilute that allegiance, trying to negate the idea, even the idea of an African identity. In that regard. And one of the biggest jokes that I've seen where this is concerned is that on the one hand, brothers and sisters will say there's no such thing as African. Yes? African doesn't exist as far as Pan-Africanists use the term African. But the same brothers and sisters that say that will, in the next breath, say, but the Egyptian civilization was an African civilization. Why? Because Bakra intellectuals tell them that they can use African in that context, but not in the context of Pan-African organization. Ridiculousness. The same. I've experienced this directly. And allow me, I tell the same person who says, you know, yeah, but there's really no such thing as African, will tell you that, well, the Egyptians were not black or white; they were African. Nonsense. Why? Because Bakra tell them so them can reason them way there. Right? I just get that. The white man tells us, yeah, this is where it's appropriate to you to have an African framework. This is where it's inappropriate to do so. Nonsense. Bare people want to comment now, innit? What I'm telling you. I tell you, if I comment the whole show and on the wait till the 9th hour. For sending all your app gotkushTV, a blow sweet. Right. I was gonna say that the link is in the chat for those who want to come live, but yeah, it's getting late, isn't it? The cultural continuity of African people. Yes, indeed, brother Anthony. Let me see that. Oh, and Talawa says maybe we want to say Eurasian culture, especially Western Eurasian, is based on antagonism rather than competition. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. The terminology is relevant, however, based upon how it is used politically within the geopolitical reality that we exist in. Yeah. So words like selfish and competition are used to justify certain economic inclinations as far as the capitalist world order is concerned. But yes, you are correct. That the term antagonism would apply. But yeah, we have to maintain the use of the term or an understanding of the term competition, however, within the context of how it is used within this particular system. Yeah, we have to bear that in mind. I've been in some conversation with some people in as well, and randomly, yeah, like we're discussing Pan-Africanism because there's a heavy tradition of socialism in Pan-Africanism. They begin to use the term socialism as a slur for negating Pan-Africanism and say that socialism is outdated, but not challenging it from the African-centered paradigm, which is really fundamentally about the Eurocentric cultural inclination and historiography of it as far as it relates to the Marxist tradition, but bringing me that argument in a manner that is commensurate with Western society's Cold War dynamics. Yeah. So basically, whatever said to me is, well, because Russia, the Soviet Union, mash up in the 90s. Yeah. If you say socialism, then you are outdated. You have to be very careful with these dynamics, and many of us as African centered folk get wrapped up in that. You know, we think that because somebody are born Marxism, that they're necessarily reasoning from an African centered framework. Yeah, some of us are not as clued in and sensitive to when somebody is promoting the dictates of the dominant capitalist society among our movements. We have to be very, very sensitive to that dynamic because it's a growing dynamic, yes, in today's world. And because they equate a dominant cooperative inclination, they can't reason within that context outside of Marxism, then our inclination towards cooperation as a dominant social principle becomes Marxism to them, becomes socialism within the Marxist framework to them. We have to be very careful with that sensibility. May I talk nothing? So I'm gonna check in if any of my guests have anything to say. Don't feel like you have to. I'm just asking if you do.
I'm just gonna say it was a really good show. I've learned a lot of things for me to go back and research back on. It's a lot of food for thought there. But even when you're speaking to Brother Kamal, I do think the point of where you were discussing competition and cooperation, there's a big difference to being selfish. You know, to class yourself as a selfish, was it gene or something like that, is totally different. I think as soon as you read it out, you could have asked me, Kushti, where in the world do you think this philosophy would have come from? And I would have 100% would have put it at our door, because it's just the essence of what makes them fundamentally them, right? So they're gonna go through with a mindset and a notion so deep that now they say it's even in their DNA. If we said it would be a problem, you know. But I do think it'd be interesting because, you know, Putin has said recently that Jesus is black. So I wonder if Richard I wonder what Richard would think if he looked at the pictures. Would he be going so hard? Would it still be culturally? Would he be still culturally Christian? Interesting. So
interesting. That is a good question. I never knew that. You just taught me something there. I'm gonna have to go look into this Putin statement. I imagine because. Say again.
He's released photos.
Okay.
Original photos. I'm doing quotes, by the way. But yeah, it was trending a little while back. So yeah, you should look into it. That he's released, and he said that officially, you know, this is the proof
Right.
that Jesus was black, you know.
Well, you know that the East, that Russia is the Eastern Orthodox Church. Yes,
Right.
they never went along with the Catholics in that. But
Right.
I wonder, because a lot of people are trying to in their rebellion against Western hegemony to varying different degrees, are trying have found kind of an ally. That word might be strong in certain circumstances, but at least you know, a listen in the ear, so to speak, in or a strategic relationship with Russia. Yeah. So I wonder if Putin is trying to keep his.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a correlation there. I definitely
Right.
think there's a quote unquote dark continent that he definitely wanted to see that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Kushti, stay tuned, yeah. On Thursday and Tuesday next week, we're going to be dealing with Senegal, and I know you're very interested in what going on in West Africa right about now. So do stay tuned. Yeah?
I will be there. Absolutely.
Right,
I'll be definitely there for that, and I'll also be there for Haiti as well, because I've seen that, you know, the Jamaica and another island have landed in Bahamas. They're getting trained by Canada. And I've unfortunately heard that apparently Berlin has picked up the charge since was it Kenya got blocked. So I'll definitely be listening to that one, but of course I'll be there for the West African one.
Yes, sir. Give thanks, Kushti. In what tip, where I say? If you have anything to say.
Not much. Yeah, just give thanks to the platform as usual. You know, this is usually it's on a Wednesday, but this is, you know, my nice reprieve from some of the foolishness that's be hearing in the country day to day today. You know, so I appreciate the platform. The Pan Africanists come together and, you know, be of one mind, or at least be of similar mind. Let me say that.
Yes, sir. Give thanks, brother. I always appreciate your energy, your vibration. I want to say, brothers and sisters, I want to give you a reminder that we are going to be engaging. One time there was a protest over here. They had a thing called a human zoo exhibition. And yeah, brothers and sisters considered the exhibition to be anti-African. So we'll go out there and demonstrate. And in the demonstration, how the demonstration was covered in the media. They said that we went there and brandished our drums. So yeah, we're going to brandish some drum on the 8th of April, 5 p.m. UK time is so it's a synchrony thing. So it's 12 noon Eastern time, 11 a.m. Central time, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Lord of mercy. All right, hold on there. 4 p.m. Ghana time and 6 p.m. in Kinshasa. Yeah, but that's 5 p.m. UK time, and we're going to be engaging the spiritual energy of our drum vibration. This was called upon by our Mama Ezeli Danto, who is Aysen from Haiti but lives in America, to basically galvanize our spiritual energy around our people in Haiti, United States, as far as specifically Angola prison and the Congo in Africa on that day. And so stay tuned for more information on that. I'm assuming that there will be, and I'm trying to cooperate with other brothers and sisters in the UK to see if we can have a central point, or at least a couple central points for this particular vibration as far as London is concerned. So do stay tuned for that. Yeah. Right, brothers are here. I just saw you. I don't know why you come on at the 9th hour, but I will allow it because brothers are here. Did say to me that he did want to say something on this subject. Yeah, but you seem to have dropped off. So my brother, please feel free to come back. I will wait, yeah, for 2-3 minutes for your return, yeah, if you want to come through, all right, because he did say that you had something to say, all right, he did say you had something to say on this subject, so I will await your return for the next 2-3 minutes. Otherwise, you will have to forever hold your peace, or at least hold it until next week, okay? So yeah, brothers out here did hit me up on the social media and said that he asked me if I was gonna have a live show in relation to this subject, and he would want to come through and check it out, yeah, because he's got something to say on it. All right. So I'm gonna hold off for a couple of minutes just for the brother to come through. And we'll see how it goes. I don't know why he dropped off. But yeah, hopefully his device are cooperating. There we go. All right. Greetings, brothers are here. Greetings.
Greetings. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, bro. You got a lot of breeze in your mic, but I can hear you. Go ahead.
Big shout out to you, man. Thank you for having me on the show. This is such an important topic because I'm gonna tell you, I initiated into voodoo and I came back expecting a lot of hugs and embracement, and all I got was you wasted your damn money and time on that backward stuff. And you need to be reading more scientific socialism and and all this other stuff. And when I started reading all of these books, I don't want to call out any names because people are gonna reduce it down to one or two people. But this is a problem. Like, these folks come out, they talk all this Kemet stuff, they use the term African. Yes. But in all reality, all they do is tear down West Africa. They say it's trash. They say, oh, if you ain't talking about ancient Egypt, you don't know shit. And ancient Egypt, you know, what they do is they just promote their own political ideology onto it. And so it ends up happening, what I was saying earlier, when we don't live or be African as much as we can, it becomes this abstract concept that we could just make it whatever. So that's why all these European concepts he's throwing in there, because no one really wants to have respect for the real indigenous worldview.
Right.
So when I go into all of these places, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
No, go. Finish. Go. Speak.
And this is what I was trying to say, man. Is just, you know, we just lose sight of this stuff, and all we do is promote these different worldviews because we don't know what the hell African is. I was in the conscious community since I was 15, bro. Since I was 15. And I went through all of this stuff. I went through the Islamic faith just like everybody else. And, you know, what it is like we make up what African is based off of our own Western ideals, stuff we watch on TV. We don't know. And so it's like re-Africanization a long time was just Islam. And so we had to do our own knowledge in advance. And I'm talking about conscious community here in America. You know, we have to, you know, that was a part of our own ignorance. See what I'm saying? And that was the big part. We just don't know. We didn't know. And then when we started to know, we was already on this pathway of all traditions, all religions, all ideas based on the Western worldview is BS. And so by the time I feel like we got into a lot of the African traditions, it was already like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to have every respect for it. We're not going to do any of that because we already have an idea that we want to achieve. And a lot of times the African worldview is antagonistic to those belief systems. But thank you for letting me get that off my chest. I know that was a little
it's all good, bro. Let me ask you a question. Where did you go for your initiation?
I went to Southern Togo.
To Southern Togo. Okay, interesting. So for those who are not aware, Voodoo tradition really comes from like Benin, Togo sides, them place there, and so many people they go to Haiti or they go to Benin mostly. So it's interesting to hear that the brother went to Togo, sorry, first of all, well, congratulations, you know what I'm saying, on you know, your initiation. And all of these things. You mentioned two groups of people: the people that are socialists and the people that are dealing with Kemet. And I'm going to presume that you are not suggesting that those people are the same people.
No. Not at all. It's I break down the Black Power tradition into three kind of categories. This is how I do it. Like Black nationalism, Pan-Africanism, and socialism, and at times they interact, at times they intertwine, and at times they're at odds with each other. So sometimes people are just Kemet, and sometimes people try to combine Kemet with socialism.
Okay. So, because and then because I've experienced this from both, yeah, especially the socialist side. Although many brothers and sisters in the socialist spectrum are developing or have a deeper appreciation for African culture and its importance, yeah, and how it can be applied economically and politically and so on and so forth, right? As far as the Kemet vibes is concerned, I have encountered brothers and sisters who treat Kemet as though it's a separate, who have a reverence for Kemet as though it's a separate framework from the rest of the African cultural matrix. Yeah. At the same time, I don't find that's the case with most brothers and sisters who have a Kemetic inclination, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like I've never heard. No, I shouldn't say I've never heard. But it's not a dominant sensibility in my experience for a brother who is inclined towards a Kemet spiritual kind of system to rubbish a brother who is dealing with Ifa or Vudan or just something. That's just not my inclination. But are you, even with the critique that you've levied, do you consider like the Neteru to be an African spiritual system?
Well, first, I want to say that my experience has been the exact opposite. And
right.
Most of the folks that I met, I'm just being honest, it was like they didn't even know anything about the spiritual systems in any other parts of Africa. And I'm also I'm also saying that as I'm gonna be honest as myself, right? I'm critiquing myself on that. I didn't know. So I do think I was always taught that Kemet was the foundation to African culture. And so I do believe that that Nebuchadnezzar has a space in terms of it being a foundation towards our collective thought and framework.
Right.
I think my only issue is that what happens is, oh, that's the foundation, so why do I got to learn anything else?
Which is nonsense, yeah. Which is a nonsense sensibility, yeah. And I have heard that.
And then I think that it just becomes problematic even more because, like we were been talking about, when these different ideologies creep in, it almost reinforces it. And what I mean by that is that it's like when we can't define it, this Kemet in relation to the other African spiritual systems. And it just becomes this abstraction, this ideal. Then I agree. Usurped.
Absolutely, my brother. I absolutely, and I think that because of how ancient Kemet is, and the fact that it's not a continuing civilization, it lends itself to that kind of abstraction. That leaves us levitating, without coming back down to earth. Whereas, like, I feel like people feel as though. One scholar said she's a Isheshe, she's an Ianifa in the Isheshe tradition, and she says that whilst dominant world religions are revealed from above, African spiritual systems are revealed from below. Right? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of us like that revelation from above, type vibration, So we, anything that's too grounded, that encourage us to get deep in the earth, we frown upon because it's less. We feel like it's less mystical, right? It's less flowery, and that kind of thing. That sensibility does exist, like you say, with the abstraction and not dealing with it in relationship to other African cultures. So we feel like, some people have a superiority complex about Kemet in relation to others. And it's a sensibility that I've always challenged, from when I was a child. What's it called? In relation to how we view the Kemetu or the Neteru spiritual system. So I absolutely agree with you. And I feel like although my experience is somewhat different in terms of what I've experienced, my dominant sensibility that most of the people that I know that are inclined towards Kemet are appreciative and embracing of Kemet as an expression of African spirituality rather than an abstraction from it. That's my experience, yeah, in that regard. But as you have said, that sensibility does exist, and I agree. It's one that needs to be challenged. Yeah, and so I appreciate you coming forward and sharing that perspective. And I don't know how
You cut out real bad there. Your last sentence you
pardon?
cut out real bad there.
Oh, you know, I can't remember what I just said a while ago because my head gone. Am I not cutting up now? Am I good now? Yeah. Okay. Zaire, obviously there's things that you can't talk about, but how open are you to talking about your journey with Wudun?
I'm definitely open to talk about it anytime.
Good, beautiful. And do you have a particular title within the tradition?
Not yet. Not any particular title yet.
Right. So you're operating on what one might call a devotee level. So you're just
correct.
Right. Okay. I understand. All right. Because one thing that we're going to be doing through the platform is having more conversations about African spirituality and culture for the purpose of addressing what you've exactly what you just said. Yeah. All kinds of religious conversation, to be honest with you, but particularly African spirituality and culture. I think there are many places people can go if they want to get more in depth. Muslim, Christian, Sikh, Buddhist, Judaic conversation. We are going to prioritize conversations on African spirituality and culture here. And so at some point, my brother, I will, because of your willingness to talk, I will send you an invitation for us to have more conversations in that regard.
I appreciate that, man. I'm glad to do it and help out any way that I can.
Oh, my brother, one thing I also want to say, though, in relation to what you were saying, because I do understand that there is a sensibility to superimpose kind of, like, we carry the baggage, even though we're coming out of a particular religious tradition, sometimes we carry the baggage of that religious tradition with us, yeah, into wherever we're newly exploring, which I think is an understandable part of the process. But I also think we should be patient with ourselves and each other, in the sense of the fact that we live in a society, like Richard Dawkins was saying, that is culturally Christian, yeah. And so there are some things that are more convenient to do, yeah, in concert with the modus operandi of the society. So, for example, yes, if I see a group, and I know people of all African spiritual inclinations that do this, they may host their meetings on a Sunday, for example. Why? Because we live in a society, yeah, that in which the weekend is the days to do certain things that are not based upon earning money, right? Going to work and the kind of things there. And Sunday is a day that people put aside for quote unquote religious pursuits, so to speak. So whereas the tradition may not be that, we have not developed, or we don't exist in a framework, a social order that is dominated by our tradition, so that we know on this day we're doing this thing, right? If that makes sense. So people negotiate it by around the conveniences of the community that they're in and the society that they're in, if that makes sense. And I think that that's a slightly different thing from just trying to superimpose. And I'm not saying that you were saying this, by the way. It's just something that came to my head while you were speaking, yeah? That we have to be understanding and patient with the material circumstances in which we live as well, when we're looking at our brothers and sisters trying to reclaim an African spiritual system. I hope you understand what I mean.
Of course. It's just, a big issue is that it becomes difficult when it comes to time when we have these arguments and these critiques happen, because it turns into the issues. I have no problem with the synchronization of practice, but if we don't kind of critique these things, what ends up happening is, I believe, if we don't embrace our kind of cultural mindset, our worldview, we become an inverted version of Yoruba.
I agree wholeheartedly with what you just said, my brother. It's like it comes back to what brother Imhotep was saying earlier in terms of the syncretization within Christianity and African spiritual systems in the Caribbean. Like that, if we don't explore the Africanness from an African perspective, then we'll just end up further Christianizing the tradition, yeah, and judging it from a Christian perspective rather than an African certain perspective. So I 100% agree with what you're saying there. Oh, but bro, obvious question: why did you go to Togo as opposed to Haiti?
I was always taught to do your research and vet a lot of priests. And
right.
Long story short, due to time, I end up getting in contact with a very reputable and good priest in Togo.
Okay. Right.
And so that's why I end up going over there.
Okay. Point taken. What brought that to mind is that there's a conversation taking place in Haiti at the moment among the Vaudan societies, yeah, in relation to the extent to which Eurocentric iconography has become normalized, yes, within the tradition, and the extent to which we need to perpetuate that. Yeah, that conversation is actually taking place, yeah, among our brothers and sisters in Haiti at the moment. So it just came to my mind as you were speaking, and I know some people, they go to Benin because they don't want to deal with that contradiction as it manifests itself in Haiti, so to speak. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a point. But yeah, these conversations are taking place. My brother, your contribution has been valuable. I do believe this is your first time on gotkushTV. Am I correct?
That's right.
All right. So welcome, my brother, and thank you for coming through.
Hey, thank you for having me. One more thing I want to say: it's a big problem is a fear of ownership too, because if you go to the continent, there's not a big fear in terms of there being a dynamic and expansive tradition that they're able to take things and own it. But I think sometimes those of us in the diaspora get afraid, when we try to look for a kind of super purist ideal, and
right,
without having a proper understanding of the traditions and the power. So, but that's something I think we could talk about.
100, my brother. I'm definitely going to reach out to you, yeah, when we're having these conversations, because you've got a lot of insights and a lot of interesting points there to make. So stay tuned, my brother. Give thanks.
Peace.
All right, brothers and sisters, I'm going to wrap up the show now. For those who are on the panel, feel free to excuse yourself. Bigging up Empress Kushti, bigging up Set Imhotep, bigging up Brother Zahir. You know what I'm saying? It's been a beautiful conversation. I hope ones and ones appreciate where we're coming from. Any critiques that I've had of brothers and sisters in the online conscious community, I should say, are made with love. Yeah, love. Black love. Beautiful Black African love. Yeah. Even though enough of them are trying to negate blackness and Africanness, we'll give them African and Black love. See them where? Yeah. And that we say. And that's it. All right. But it was before I'd come to the conversation by bringing the example of the illustrious Richard Dawkins and his allegiance to Bakra, British Bakra culture and British Bakra geopolitical interests, even among us as African people, to the platform and centralize that conversation. I do hope ones and ones have enjoyed the conversation. Give me some Black Power fist in the chat, brothers and sisters. If you have enjoyed the conversation, learned something, I'm taking some inspiration and or information from it. Let me see your Black Power fist in the chat. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Stay tuned. Once again, this coming Thursday, we have a show on Senegal and the election of President Faye. So stay tuned. We've got some analysis coming on that. And then next week, Tuesday, Ujima Day, the 9th of the month they call April, we will be going live to Senegal. Yes, we will be going live to Senegal because Senegal, for those who are not aware, has now a president who is a Pan-Africanist. Yes, who openly self-identifies as a Pan-Africanist. Okay. And coming back to what my father was saying when Brother Leader Bandaka was saying, when we covered the issue of the alliance of the Sahel states, where that wasn't fully formalized then, but he was looking at the track record and he was saying that some of these leaders, we don't know what their track record is. Yeah. Well, the brothers and sisters in Senegal definitely have a track record. Yeah. So we're going to be analyzing the viability of that track record and what it means as far as Senegal is concerned, as far as West Africa is concerned, as far as Africa is concerned, as far as the African world is concerned. next week, Ujima Day, Tuesday, the 9th of April. So do stay tuned for that. We're going to have brothers and sisters from underground in Senegal there with we for the conversation there. Yeah, so I look forward to it. You know what I'm saying? We are also going to be dealing with Haiti again next week, Ujama Day, Tuesday, the 10th of April. So do stay tuned. Yeah. We have our good brother Mario Goose of the Jacques the First organization is going to be coming to us. So do stay tuned, and we've got more conversation on Haiti coming up. I'm also going to have a conversation on Sudan soon as well. Yeah, we're preparing for that. So do stay tuned. Yeah, looking to get a guest for that one as well. So do stay tuned for our conversation on Sudan and Wagwan in Sudan. Yes, Badas will come as well. Yeah, Badas soon come as well. You know what I'm saying? But I'm sure brothers and sisters can appreciate that, you know, once Haiti happened, man had to prioritize that. You know what I'm saying? Because I had started watching it around that time, you know. But yeah, man just had to prioritize the Haiti vibration. It just is what it is. All right, brothers and sisters. So yes, we will engage the Badas review. I'm gonna watch it in its entirety, take notes, and do a pre-recorded review of it, and then we'll come back to Badas UK and all of these things. All right, brothers and sisters. Okay, giving thanks to all those who came on the panel, giving thanks to all the comments, the questions, and so on and so forth. In particular to brother Kamal Rashid. I believe I also saw brother Rakeem Shabazz of Why is the Dome TV in the building also. Big up yourself, my brother. If you are not subscribed to Why is the Dome TV, please subscribe to Why is the Dome TV. My brother Rakeem Shabazz is having some entirely important conversations. He had a conversation the other day about how the Black Lives Matter movement went in and took over the movement against state-sanctioned violence in Ferguson. Yeah, entirely important conversation, and it's even more important because of the co-opting of that narrative by the right-wing establishment. Yeah, we have to, if we're going to challenge and criticize Black Lives Matter, we have to criticize it from our own perspective. And Candace Owens is not our own perspective. I don't care how many black people interview her, or like all this Candace Owens is one of us now nonsense. Fire for them argument there. Lightning, earthquake, and thunder. Yes, for them argument there. Right? You know what I'm saying? Okay, all them people there, you know. Anyway, that's another subject for another time, you know. Because them people there, yeah, we're gonna have more to say on them people there at some point. But that today ain't the day for that. All right, but it's very important that because Candace Owens, was challenging Black Lives Matter, we don't assume that she was doing so from our perspective. Yes, as activists on these issues. All right, we must be very, very mindful of that. Am I missing anything? I just want to remind you of the vibration coming this next week, Kulicha Gulia Day, Monday, the 8th of April, where we will be brandishing our drums for freedom of Haiti, of our brothers and sisters in Angola prison, and our brothers and sisters in the Congo, brothers and sisters. All right, so do stay tuned for more information on that coming through all of our gotkushTV avenues. With that, I say Tendai Mwadi, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai Mudzimu Mukuru, giving praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Fire burn them dirty king, blaze up them dirty king, fire burn them king, send him disastrous, and time he fast with us, ancestors walk with us, fire burn them king. Ghana, democracy under fire, delving deep into the political theatre of Ghana in the lead up to the general election in December 2024. We welcome activist, organizer and writer Bonchi Anyete as our regular co-host and analyst, breaking down the dynamics in his unique and entertaining way. Tune in to our very first show, Decoding Ghana's Political Theatre, Tuesday, the 27th of February, 2024, from 8 p.m. GMT, live on gotkushTV. And we look forward to you joining us every fourth Tuesday of the month throughout 2024. Ghana, democracy under fire. This is a show not to be missed.
My brother also talks about our romanticizing of Mama Africa. I don't romanticize Mama Africa. I'm not into romance, I'm into Afriman. And I am indeed most Afrimantic about Mama Africa. Most excited about Mama Africa. If you can be excited about Mecca and Hajj, then I can be excited about Mama Africa. The largest and most powerful real estate on the face of the earth, which belongs to us. Right. If you accept that Africa is the womb of humanity, then you accept that Africa, by implication, is our mother. That's right. That's right. We came out of the womb of Africa. That's so. Africa is our mother. That's right. Your mother may be perfect, may be imperfect, but she is still your mother. That's so. Africa is my mother, and her state presently is most imperfect, but she is still my mother. There was a woman, an African woman, who was in university. She was adopted, and she went to university. And brothers and sisters, one day, another woman came to her and said, your mother is in the canteen and she wants to speak to you. Listen good. And she got up and ran out. She was raised by white people. She got up and ran out to see her mother, and when she looked, she saw a black woman, an African woman, with her face badly distorted because her face was burnt. Listen good. The woman looked at her mother and she said to the person that called her, oh, that's not my mother. My mother is not that ugly. Listen good. She went back to where she was, and the sister went with her. And whilst they were in her dormitory, her mother came, she found the dormitory, entered the dormitory, and said to her, yes, indeed, I am your mother. She said, I am not now what I looked like when I had you. Listen good. If you want to know what I look like, look in the mirror. Good song. I look exactly like you. Then she said, I got this way, my child, because I tried to save you from a fire. Listen good. You were in a house that was burning down, and I sacrificed my beauty to save your life. That's right. And she said, the only thing that pains me now is that you have become so mean and so wretched in your spirit. Mama Africa may not be looking too beautiful now, brothers and sisters, but she is still our mother.
month of May, we chant liberation. We gather every year in the month of May, 'cause we are one black nation. And we celebrate all our victory and prepare for each new fight. We vanquish you all down pressure, whether black, yellow, brown or white. 'Cause black struggle international in this year time, and we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in North America, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in the Caribbean, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in Canada, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in South America, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in Europe, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in Britain, man, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in Asia, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I go in Australia, me say we want liberation now. And so we trot down the road and it a cause sensation. Behind the colors of the new black nation, I step into the valleys in the shadow of the wicked, just a chant liberation. Tell it to the nation, what we want to see is Africa strong and free. We sing it in a reggae song all the time. Say what is to be has got to be. Africa shall be free. Who are we? Africans. What do we want? Freedom. And we say, how do we get it? Fight. We must fight to defend the truth and defend the right. It's Africa Liberation Day. The true black spirit is here to stay. Before this power, no one life is here. Freedom come, what me? Freedom come, what me? And the white them who were standing by were watching fearful, wondering, saying, who are these people who walk so proud? Who are these people who chant so loud? Are these not they who live in darkness and to whom we have given light? Are these not the sons and daughters of the savage who we have taught to read and write? Have we not taught them our history and honor them with our culture? And brought them into our great house to serve and stand at our great table? Have we not granted them what they deserve? Well, African proverbs say that only those who can listen can learn, and who can hear go and feel. We are the sheep of Jah pasture, and now we shall inherit our land. And we are also the lion, against who none shall stand. We are the sons and daughters of the original nation that gave to this world first knowledge of civilization. We were the victim of the white savage to whom we stretch out our hand, and not knowing they came to plunder, kill and slave our people and destroy our land. So now we step it down the road and it a cause sensation. Behind the colors of the new black nation and a one chant liberation. And we say, who are we? Africans. What do we want? Freedom. And we say, how do we get it? Fight. We must fight. We defend the truth and defend the right. This is Africa Liberation Day. A true black spirit is here to stay. Without this power, no one life is there. Freedom come, what me? A freedom come, what me? A freedom come, what me? What me?